Sick. We're here. I had you here, man. I'm excited.
You know, I know this is always said, but Han Solo, I was always Han Solo.
Okay.
Han Solo wasn't cool, right? Everyone wanted to be Luke.
Who are these non-Han Solo cool people?
Now it's easy to go back in history and pretend like Han Solo was always the man, right? And but what it feels like for me is that I've been in carbonite for a minute. And I just came out and you're a Jedi and everyone's cool. And
like you haven't watched this thing take place.
And I'm like, what the hell, man? Like I'm back, just, just shoveling my widgets back, just making the content. And all of a sudden I come here and I'm like, wow, maybe I need to move to St. Louis.
Yes, this is the place for you. I think it would be great. Move dead middle of the country. Sounds awesome.
Hey kids, bad news.
Yeah.
Good news.
Good news. We now live in the Midwest.
This is, this place looks fantastic.
Thanks, man.
You're one of the things that I respect you as a man about is that you have immaculate taste.
Yes. It's something I'm proud of.
Like people ask me like, who's your stylist? And I'm like, oh, Matt Vincent. Matt Vincent's my stylist.
I'm not sure how this has worked out, but it matters, dude. Like there's such details that matter. And I don't know why it's able to pick out like, there's just some stuff that you're like, oh, I see why you're into it, but you missed it.
Oh yeah. One time I was at Chris Hemsworth's house, right? And
it happens.
And for a few
Life's
days,
weird.
And he was being fitted for a tux, and for the Oscars, and we're hanging out. And
was he getting invited to the Oscars?
Yeah, right. He was presenting or something.
Okay.
And I remember thinking like, oh, it must be nice to have a stylist. Like he would like you could tell when he felt pretty.
Yeah.
When he felt good. And let's be honest, he's very handsome. So
of course.
A lot of things look very good on him. But that's how I feel now. Dressed by hate.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's truly like like I have a stylist and I feel pretty.
But dude, there's no doubt that like while we sit here and blow each other for a little bit, there's no doubt that the same boat for me, like style wise, right? Like you guys in the house and like after, getting to meet you 5 or 6 years ago now, like it's the mid-century house and it being set up and it being nice and it not being the McMansion and still giving a shit, like the backyard you guys built and all of that has been wildly inspiring.
With the Le Corbusier, form form.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah.
That's what the whole backyard I built in Louisiana was essentially a copy and paste version of yours without a 12-foot deep pool.
Well, I think we're in an interesting time right now where if we call this time the Anthropocene, right? It's the time where humans have changed the environment, right? There's no single sort of catastrophic moment except humans changing our environment. Well, I think right now we're also in a time of precariousness around human intervention of who we are as humans. Like animals in a tribe, getting sunlight, doing the basics to stay intact. Because if you really dig down right now, what we're seeing is that people I don't think are very stoked. And one of the things that I try
No, dude, it's the opposite.
Yeah. And one of the things I try to point out, when I'm talking to medical professionals and physical therapists and physicians, and I was like, okay, let's just to say that per E.O. Wilson, the highest form of what we should be doing with science is to serve the humanities. That's the goal, right? To transform society. And I'll tie this into Dune eventually.
Perfect.
Hang on. But, I'm like, if that's the case, how are we doing? So let's just say that, let's look at this. And right now what we see is, and I think one of the reasons the work that you're doing in our relationship and the fact that I am so stoked to pimp your shit.
Yeah.
And I mean pimp, I mean like wear it personally. Like, I don't care if I sell one pair of joggers for you. That's not what it's about.
It's not important to me either.
Is that you've taken your eye off of what's called the industrial concept. So industrial fitness, the goal of industrial fitness is to make money. And if you go into the world right now and look at people's Instagram and take this filter with you, you'll see suddenly that you can divide sort of things into sort of two big categories. One of them is industrial, right? Which is, again, the goal is to make money, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
But it is
a different approach.
That's right. Versus authorship, ownership. And what you see with hate and everything that you're doing is auteur sort of lifestyle. It's saying, hey, you can care about details. The quality is better. And the side effect is that maybe you'll have a better life, right?
Right.
But that's what's so interesting about when you see people who are still running legitimate businesses, because this is still legitimate business, but the only goal is not to make money. And when you suddenly apply that filter, when you're scrolling through the Instagram world, you'll see what resonates with me, because we have to be thinking about moving beyond industrial fitness, because we're fatter, we're more diabetic, we have more back pain. Like, choose a fucking thing you care about. Kids ACL tears. I'm like, let's apply it. How's it going? More drugs, less drugs, more disconnect. Right now, like, we're doing some research with Cal Berkeley right now.
Okay.
With our Stand Up Kids initiative, right? We've gone into schools. We're doing long-term research, trying to look at how can we change the environment so we have better outcomes. But we gave these kids, these fifth graders, some inventories: depressed, anxious. So
Fifth grade.
So what we have to be asking is, what is going on? And your environment, you're feeling safe. You're feeling, in your room in the guest room is a poster about Fight Club.
Okay.
Right. And the most powerful biting aspect of Fight Club is this industrial selling. Which couch represents me the most, right? And what you see is that people do not feel integrated into their home. They don't feel integrated into their communities. They don't feel integrated into their neighborhood. And that is a type 1 error that we're going to have to get a hold of. And so you start to add that. And when you find a tribe, that's why this loose, lazy tribalism on the internet. I'm a Barbell Brigade. I'm a TRS guy. I'm an ONNIT guy. Again, it's important because people need to feel connected to other humans.
Which is why the NFL is still popular.
That's right.
Because that's the last time most men were ever part of a thing.
That's right.
Playing high school football.
And it's one of the reasons why I believe in the sanctity of football, because it's so inclusive for boys who will not ever have a sport or a tribe community.
After high school.
Or in high school, because you're a 250-pound kid, but there's a lineman position, a third-string lineman position, where you can lift weights and belong. So that's the big disconnect right now. We're as far away and separate. And when you start applying that industrial versus auteur filter, things are going to make a lot more sense to you about why you like that, right? And you're going to also be able to split out, because I think we're in this, like, how would we describe it? Anthropo precarity moment where we need to figure out what the fuck it means to be a modern human right now, because we're not doing a good job.
But I think part of that due to is just, if we look at a relatively short run is 100 years and where the changes have been, say, just in American society in the last 100 years.
That's a lot of change.
And man, we're in such a unique time right now. And this, one of the things I talk about a lot is that for the first time in human history, more people can decide what stress you want to adapt to. I don't have to be hungry. I don't have to be cold. I don't have to be hot. But now I get to choose. And so I get to choose, how do I want to be uncomfortable? And how do I want to adapt?
Yeah, you're right.
But you have to choose uncomfortability and
you have to
for growth. And most people just don't want
that. Can be sauna. That can be cold. It can be breath practice.
Dude, the sauna, I thought about it while I was in Miami. I'm sitting there and using theirs, and their sauna runs hot like yours. And we're going to sit in here and tough this out. Like, I know that we're going to reach a spot that it's like, I'm uncomfortable. I want out of here. But you're not in danger at all. And so all you have to do is nothing. I just need you to sit here and do nothing. That's all we have to do for this to work today.
We get in the car and my girls, including my wife sometimes, and Juliet's working, she's CEO and stuff, but we get in the car and every girl picks up their phone.
Yep.
And I go insane. And I probably on my phone, but I'm driving. So that's
sure, it's different. Right? I have peripheral vision.
All right. So, but what we aren't doing is paying attention, being here. And look, I love Instagram. I love Instagram.
Same.
I had a filter that blocked me at 30 minutes, and I was like, "That's not enough." So
no, you'll never hear me badmouth.
But I do leave my phone, and I don't stress about it. Left my phone in the truck last night. I did not go get it because I don't need it. Right?
Dude, there's something about saying you don't own me. You're a tool.
Our girls have to turn their phones in at night, And one of the reasons I think this industrialization, you know, I think one of the things that we always are going to have to figure out, especially in this this community that we're in, this incredible fit. I'm a coach. I love being around coaches. I love being around athletes. I can talk about this. There's no edge to my life. This is what I do. Right. It's my hobby. It's like you're like, hey, look at my new biking kit. I'm like,
performance across the board.
What? We're going to have to figure out sort of where the lines are around, where we're going. What does it mean to be a modern person? How does this tech integrate, and what's essential? And we haven't done that. We're going to have to create some I think like movement vital signs, like idea. Like that's a concept that I'm trying to be big on. I'm like, hey, look, your physicality needs to be a vital sign. But we haven't given anyone vital signs around livelihood. Like, I exist in these worlds where I'm helping people untangle chronic pain, complex pain. And there are plenty of people listen to this who are self-soothing, right? We're managing pain. Like one of the things that I think we're having a bigger conversation about, like, what are all the tools available to me to self-soothe? That's really one of the things. Like I'm in pain, I'm in stress, I'm in anxiety. Self-soothing is just reaching for Ambien, reaching for Adderall, reaching for THC, reaching for, wine, Netflix. Those are all ways of just feeling and self-regulating.
Yep.
So they're not good or bad. They're just all the tools that are available to us, right? But we're going to have to change, and that we're in the middle of this of who owns what right now. And what we're going to have is a population that is much more capable and educated about looking at all the tools that are available to us and applying that, and not waiting till the system is so fucked that we then have to have a medical level intervention. And that is the problem.
It's crazy.
I just went to dinner at my mother-in-law's house, and her husband, Ed, right, is Chinese, and his mother was there.
This is Jay's mom. Yeah.
Jay's mom's, right, partner. She is 100 years old. I'm having dinner with a 100-year-old woman who doesn't need a walker, cuts her own hair, still makes jokes. And I'm like, holy shit, I have 53 more years of maintenance to be able to be here. I'm like, how intact am I going to be?
If I see 100, I essentially had 25 years there of like, we're in overtime.
So, that's what's so interesting about all this to me. And I think it's also interesting to me about, the places, the tribes and the connection, because look, there's not going to be a single person that speaks to everyone. It's okay to have flavors. It's okay to find a tribe and a community, but you've got to get out of this manipulation by industrial, because I ask myself all the time, like, how am I contributing to this noise through Instagram? Like, I'm selling shit on Instagram.
Sure.
Am I making the world better through my shit? Is that just rationalization through my shit? Or are we helping to transform society through this auteur? Because you can still make film, you can still make art.
Right.
And this is why your house can be an expression of that. That design can be an expression of...
I think it matters that all of it
yes.
is, right? Like, and even say something as silly as, for me, and the auteur thing, that's something I've been kind of describing lately is like universe creation.
Yes.
And so it's, I know what pen I like writing with. And so I order those pens. I care. I care about that thing. I care about the TV that I just got set up on the wall, not doing it sloppy. And there's different ways to have this universe creation depending on how far into it you are, right? Like I make my own clothes. I have all these other type of things. I built this place out, and it's these little bitty things that you can do, like having a vehicle you like if you're someone who has to commute all the time.
Gives you immense
give 5% cooler day because I got to ride in this thing I give a shit about.
And you feel connected, and you feel like you have control and agency in a world where we do not have control and agency.
No.
So there's a great concept by a guy, he's a sociologist from Yale, named Charles Perrow, and he has a book called Normal Accidents. And normal accident theory is basically, if you look at complex systems, and ultimately if you give that complex system enough time to express itself, you'll see something that looks like an accident. You'll see something that looks like that we're like, oh, that's an outlier. And it's actually not an outlier. It's a normal expression of the system if you give the system enough time to express itself. So here's a good example. How what I'm talking about in terms of the complexity here is if you are a maniac during the day and you're like, I can't fall asleep. I'm so stressed, right? Or I'm so anxious. So you get on the alcohol because that's one of the ways societally we were like, hit a break.
Yeah,
have some brown liquor.
We've totally normalized it.
That's right. That works, but it wrecks your sleep.
Right.
So a lot of my friends have stopped drinking.
Yeah, and there's not even really a good minimum effective dose for it.
Yeah. So, and the reason they've stopped drinking, because I tell you what, good wine is amazing. Good bourbon is amazing.
Well, look, alcohol is an amazing drug.
It's incredible. It's proof of God's
made by people who give a shit.
I know. But it wrecks your sleep. So now you wake up because you've had shit sleep and you are getting less than 7 hours of sleep.
And then now you're behind again.
And so now you're on the caffeine and at 4 o'clock you're having a bulletproof coffee or whatever. And you're trying to get through. And what we can't see is the inputs and outputs. And so suddenly your skin gets bad or you start to add weight or you get injured or something. And what we were like, oh, I don't know, it just happens. And I'm like, it's not a happen.
Right.
This is the complexity and the tightly coupled aspects of your life.
You're choosing chemicals that aren't working the best for what you want.
They express themselves, right? So a good example of normal accident theory is this ship that got turned sideways in the Suez Canal, right? That was a matter of time. People are like, it's a freak. And I'm like, it's not a freak. It's what happens when you put gigantic ships that are overloaded, turned sideways in high winds.
But also say something like the Suez Canal, right? With the quantity of boats that'll go through it in its existence, we're going to deal with everything.
That's right. But what was amazing is
so there's 0.111%.
We didn't have a plan for that.
No,
right? That we were surprised.
Why would a boat ever turn sideways? Well, shit.
So if we can start to think about sort of first principles, like, you know, how safe and how rad is your home, right? And now suddenly the internet is a way to curate better ideas, right? You know, like you and I, since I'm on the Umso podcast, I'm just going for it. I'm here and I'm not even going to be politically correct.
Perfect.
You and I send you a lot of photos of Instagram influencers.
Yeah. It's one of our favorite things.
Who have terrible taste.
Yeah, and the background of their house is just a disaster.
And it's a game I play where I'm like, look at that lamp, look at that carpet. What's going on with all the things on that table? And literally I circle things and send it to Matt and I'm like, oh, yeah, this person, and now it's a game. You know what I'm sending.
When I just look in the background and be like, oh, Keurig machine. You don't respect coffee.
Oh, come on. Look, no, if Keurig is your way in to a bigger conversation.
Of course, it's just fun being snooty.
It is. I am snooty as shit. But I'm like, look at that carpet. And what are you doing there with that rug?
But dude, so that to me, like I got influenced into that kind of line of thought from this film class I took in college. And it was one of the things I learned from it, and one of the ways I view film now or TV or anything is because we're watching a completely fabricated world. Like we didn't just get to drop into this person's life in this movie. It's an actor. We've hired him. It's X, Y, and Z. Like so, everything on screen is a choice.
That's right.
Like the art on the wall. And that's why I like Tarantino so much, or I like Wes Anderson, is because they curate universes. It isn't just a scene that's standalone that's supposed to be Earth. That's their planet. Like Tarantino makes his own cigarette brand. He has his own burgers that travel through that universe. He's got, if it's on screen, it was there on purpose.
There was a book I read, like 2000. It was about how Shakespeare shaped our thinking of what it meant to be human through the characters that he'd written. Like Falstaff is not a person. Falstaff was a super person, a Superman. Hamlet, the consciousness, internal dialogue, right? Self-awareness wasn't something we were capable of, but it was written. And so it changed our consciousness about what was possible.
And also at that time, no one's writing that depth.
So add in the fact that changes what we think is possible. And that's where the promise of the internet, like I watch so much weightlifting, exercising on Instagram.
Sure.
Because I follow so many coaches that I love and respect, and I get to see what their brains do every single day and how they're practicing and the transparency of it. And if there's something I want people to take away from on this is, one is that you can use this power to improve your life, not just through consumerism. I feel good. I hit the serotonin thing, but you can take ideas about making your life richer, your training richer, your community richer. And seeing the sort of possibility in your life, that is a great use of all of this. Like I've taken
the tools.
I've already walked into dope, which is,
I mean, you're like, there's a couple things.
I literally am like, oh, great idea. I never thought about that. I'm going to do that. And that's the key here is that you can let that Falstaff idea, you can let that Hamlet idea change the way you can think about your own world. You can expand your universe a little bit at a time, but you have to be conscious of it and you have to be a participant in it, not being manipulated by it. And that is very difficult because right now what I'll tell you is we are shitting the bed. It is not looking good. And I get all of this data. I see, I don't do one thing. I do like 50 different things in my business. Right. And I'm like, look, I work with England national soccer team. Like I see all their dirty laundry and now I got the military and I got, I'm working with kids. Like I see so many, I'm like that guy who's like, can see the picture and it's a sailboat.
Yeah, right. It's just a schooner.
There is no Easter bunny. And
it's great.
But sometimes I'm like, hey, we need to be able to take a step back a little bit and appreciate what that looks like. Like if our girls were using the phones in COVID as a self-soothing, it was their connection to the whole world.
Yeah, it's crazy. The window got taken.
That's right. So one of the things that happens, like they would act shitty, man. And we'd be like, dude, your phone is on the line. And they would freak out about taking the phone away. And I was like,
oh man, that's wild.
And simultaneously, I'm like, look, that's mean of me. I'm a dick, Dad. But this is the tool I have, and my weapon is to remove you from your culture and your community and the way you're self-soothing during this pandemic, being isolated. But simultaneously, you have to be able to turn off. You have to be able to unplug. You have to don't drink coffee for a day and let me know how you feel. And that's all I'm saying. Just be aware of the choices you're making, and you're being just slammed by bullshit on the internet.
Yeah, and it amazes me still that people don't operate with that thing, treating it as it is. And like for me, it's fire. That's all your phone is. That's all Instagram is. All the social media thing is. It's fire. And now I can either choose to take that fire and let it get out of control and burn my house down because I look at it with a scarcity mindset and seeing what other people have and I don't have it and they must have done this or X, Y, and Z. Or I can look at it like I do with my friends and see, okay, so that's possible. And if it's possible, it means it's not impossible. There are steps to take.
Apply that to anything.
To everything you do.
Yeah, I would say I would say that's something that I was getting better at before I came on board with you. But since having been around you and stuff more, I've definitely gotten better at that. I do hate when people say don't compare yourselves, because I personally, I love to do that.
How about not compare, but be inspired by it?
Well,
right.
Yes,
inspiration.
But yeah, I'm just inspiration. But if I watch a Nike ad or something like that, or just anyone that's I see is better than me, instead of being oh, I can never get there, being oh, I can get there, I just have to keep working. But it's also understanding this is the standard for what I'm trying to reach. And so whenever I make a thing, if I see another video, I'm oh, that was better or something like that. I'm that's what I need to get to.
I love that.
That's I still use the word compare, even though I realize inspiration is better, but I feel it kicks me in the ass a little more if I say I still compare myself to other people.
Well, only if you drag that negative connotation into compare.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, but let's apply it to chronic pain, persistent pain. So
Sure.
I've known you pretty much since I've known you, you've been in persistent pain and chronic pain.
Yes. Some form. It got worse and now we're better.
Until now, really you were dealing. I don't think people realize.
And you've been around for probably the worst it's ever been.
And we're still friends.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Like
the
in
worst,
the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, I want people to understand that when we were hiking in the Grand Canyon, you were at 10 out of 10 in the pain cave.
I still call it a 9 because I didn't get medevaced out.
That's right. Fine. Whatever.
There has to be at least, I know there's more, because if my leg was gone, it would be worse pain. I guess. Allegedly.
I had an ear infection, and I tell Juliet, I'm like, I got to go to the hospital, and we have a newborn, and she's like, "You never had an earache before?" And I was like, "It's really bad." And she's like, "I think you need to consolidate your student loans." That's what she said to me, and I was like, "I need to go to the hospital." And so she's at home with her baby, and I'm like, "It's like 10 out of 10." And what she said was, she's like, "You're having a baby?" And I was like, "Okay, I'm not having a baby. You're right. It can always get worse. It can always get worse." So I just want people to appreciate it can always get worse. So that's this element. So I go to the hospital, and they're like, "What's your pain?" I'm like, "I don't know, like 6 or 7, because it can always get worse."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Okay, sit down." So like I'm in the ER. It's 2 hours later. I'm like, "Excuse me, I'm dying." They were like, "What's your pain?" I'm like, "I don't know, like 6 or 7, because I'm not having a baby."
No, because you're being realistic. 0 also doesn't exist on my pain scale.
The doctor comes in, and she's like, "Well, have you ever had an ear infection before?" And I was like, "You fucking bitch." I can't believe it. I am here in the ER because and right then my eardrum burst and blood started pouring out my neck down random as I'm talking to the doctor. And she's like, "Jesus Christ." She's like, "Why didn't you tell us?" I was like, "Well, because it always get worse." And they're like, "You should have said 9 or 10. I was like, "Well, my wife told me it's not 9 or 10.
I have an ear.
So to your point, it could be worse than the grand.
Yeah.
But what I want people to appreciate is when you can, this idea that like you can level up. Right? And that you can make your life better. You can make your friends better. You can have more vulnerability. And you can apply that same thing. If someone has had chronic pain or persistent pain and finds a way out of it, you can too.
Right.
And that is what's so powerful right now is we have the greatest talking drum set in the world. We're using it to sell shit.
Dude,
on the internet.
The knee replacement changed my life.
Yes.
Changed my life. And like I get so many messages now from people who are struggling or dealing with a thing. And to me, if people are asking like, I don't know if I should get knee replacement yet, then my typical answer is you're not ready.
That's right.
You're okay. Like if you're still questioning it, we're not there yet. And then the people that are like, "Yo, I'm miserable, blah, 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 and my doctor won't go with it." I'm like, find fucking another doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
They work for us.
That's exactly right. So let's apply that consciousness and awareness to your food choices, to the things you're doing.
Dude, own all of it. Be responsible for the whole thing.
And I think that's the problem is that we just had a generation of people who were like, it doesn't matter. You're not responsible. There's a pill. And what we saw was that people flamed.
Well,
they
especially
they did not have the life they thought they were going to have. And that's what you're seeing as the X. That's the QAnon. That's the incel. That's
even looking at the doctor thing like that and where I'm at with it is whether I want to have total knee replacement or not, someone will do this because we operate in capitalism. Someone will fucking put this thing in me. I need to find the right advice and educate myself to make my own decision on it. That doctor, you don't get a vote in whether or not my knee gets fixed.
That's right.
I appreciate you either want to do the work the same way as like, does this project of this El Camino inspire you as a builder? If it doesn't, I'll find someone who's into it.
That's right. That's right. And, same thing. So, this for me and really have known you, I think in getting to know you when you were still competing.
Yeah.
Right. That's the first Matt I met, right?
That would have been 2015. So it would have been right after like second world title.
Yeah. Second world title. You're doing drift to lifta.
Yeah.
And, so cute.
This door. I tried a thing. It never took off. Oh, well.
Drift to lifta.
I spent a bunch of money on it for 4 years.
You used to walk around with your bag. It had your kilt in it.
Yeah.
Right. You just walk around. So I've known you then. You were a rep, inside rep for a company.
Yeah.
You're driving around. You're spending, I don't know, how many miles did you drive every year?
About 75,000.
75,000 miles in your truck.
Yep.
Right. And you're like, "Hey, my hips are really tight." And I was like, I was like, "Well, hey, you know how like your hobby is to extend your hips powerfully while holding things?" Yeah. I'm like, I don't know.
Maybe you should stand more often.
I don't know. So get one of those milk trucks you can stand and drive around.
Oh God, that would have been great. A standing truck.
A standing truck. It's a milk truck. So, I've known you that way, and to see sort of you consciously create a universe. And I want everyone to hear that you can do it. Like you'll never be Matt Vincent. You can't. You don't have the conscious, but you'll be your own version of Matt Vincent.
Right. I don't need to be any of my friends who do rad shit. I'm just stoked on seeing that. Okay, so that's a thing you can do, and there's steps to take.
And when you see people get hot, Like, so I mean, in our
I'm
universe,
waiting.
when
One
we-
of these days.
I'm getting hot again for the first time.
Damn it.
I shouldn't have chose stretching. Shit.
Stretch King.
Little stretches. So, when you see people on the internet doing dope shit, to your point, it's the moment where you can say, well, I can do that too. And I may never do it as well as them, but I can, if that's possible, then it's possible.
I can fucking try, you know.
That's
Well, there's
how
steps.
we're going. That's right.
Just figure out the next step and then decide if it's a roadblock. That was something I got from Bart and Geo at Barbell Brigade. So the way that whole started, right? So they're doing the JK thing and doing the YouTube stuff and killing it. Bart's starting to train more, wants to get into powerlifting. So starts hitting up the JK team and staff about like, hey, I'm thinking about getting a shipping container and having a gym. And everyone's like, oh, that sounds awesome. We could have our own private spot to train. And then that turned into like 9 or 10 people. So like, why don't we rent a place and then get a gym? And then they ended up getting customers in there and then now move to a second location.
That's right.
But Bart and Geo are like, yeah, we bought a How to Open a Brick and Mortar for Dummies book. And we just followed it. And we were like, let's just see when we run into a thing we can't figure out. And they just didn't.
You have so much more time. And look, if you're listening to this, I appreciate that your life is crazy. You have kids, you have a job you're trying to slam down, you're managing elderly family. COVID has made it more complicated. Sometimes you're just trying to
And you're
deal.
scraping by 2 jobs.
Yeah, I really get that because I was there yesterday. I mean, it really was just yesterday. And all you have to do is just be a little bit better today. Just do one small
That's it.
thing.
Just move the needle a little bit. Give
And
today
if you
a plus
just
1.
turn the TV off and read a book, I don't want to oversimplify it because it is complicated and it takes resources and friends, but you're a fucking human being. And, I think, some of the things that I'm really interested in now is like, look, I still am obsessed with, I got a whole bunch of friends going to the Olympics this year, right?
Right.
Like I love that shit.
Dude, the Olympics is the coolest.
I love the Olympics. I love world champion. I love when, my athletes are destroying people. That makes me super happy. But I think the bigger calling for right now is trying to untangle this unhappiness. And the physical unhappiness is the same thing as the mental unhappiness.
But it's
They are
interesting too, because
conjoined.
our standard of living for people in our country has never been higher.
Yeah.
And we're unhappy. So there's something in the fulfillment department that's not getting scratched. Also, look, I'm glad that we're in a spot as a society that we get to start questioning enlightenment.
That's right.
And we don't get to do that unless a bunch of other needs are already taken care of.
But it's the existentialism is still real.
Of course it is.
And, the Paris elite, dying of their ennui is just as existential as someone worried about, food for kid. And those are not equivalent, of course.
Sure.
One is life and death, and one is, hey, a muse. But I want to appreciate that your brain needs input, and the kinds of input we've been told or getting or entertainment, we are entertaining ourselves and not being interesting people.
So something's going back to something you'd said earlier about, the down regulation and people using alcohol or whatever it is, whether it's Netflix, whether it's the phone,
That's right.
whether it's any of those type of things. Something they had talked to us about when we went to Costa Rica for ayahuasca, and it was because people asked like, well, what do you guys think about alcohol? What about cannabis? Or what about anything else? And the big question they asked was, are you taking this to disconnect or connect?
That's right.
And if it's connect, then it's a tool. But if you're using it to numb, it's not benefiting you.
I was just in Cookeville seeing my friend Rich Froning, hanging out with him.
I've heard of him.
Yeah. And, one of the solid pieces of their community is their faith. And once a week, they all get together and talk about their role in the world, their role in society, how they're doing, and whether you're listening to that conversation or you're an active participant in that conversation, you're still hearing and self-reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
And when I leave that place, what I think is this is an incredible intention practice. And it's just a practice that once a week, people get together and they talk about their feelings and their needs and their in the world and the way they react and interrelate. Now apply that to the gym. because I think this is the one place where you can be vulnerable. This is the place where you can expose your ego and destroy your sense of self-importance. Why? Because Steffi's going to get under and triple whatever you pull.
Right,
So
because
it's just,
I currently
right?
can't out-total her because I can't pass a squat.
Sorry. So, what I want us to say is, like, you have to go and create your tribe and practice a little bit every day. I was on the airplane out, talking to this woman, and she's like, I work for Microsoft, and, she's like, I realized I was sitting for 13 hours a day and I started to feel terrible. And I was like, what'd you do about that? Because, my now I just have opening questions. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. What was your next step?
And she's like, well, I went back to Pilates. And I was like, isn't Joseph fucking Pilates a genius? Right? He figured some shit out. And this woman was like, if I go to Pilates, turns out I'm a better wife. I'm a better person in my family. My body feels better. My brain feels better. I'm more productive at work. I'm like, okay. So that's this, I think, a side effect of our modern selves is that we keep reducing and siloing these aspects. This is my nutrition. This is my sleep. This is my, instead of seeing these things as a whole physical
It's the
practice,
whole system, dude.
The number one thing that people don't appreciate, about eating, is that when you cook and eat with people, that is one of the things that makes you a human being.
Yeah, the shared meals around a fire, man. It's as old as we can go as far as the community aspect goes.
We cook. We do a lot of cooking. We do a lot of sitting down as a family. And now Georgia has a boyfriend who eats with us a lot, right? He's a big eater. We have to have lots and lots of extra food around for this 17-year-old kid. I totally
appreciate that.
I'm like, dude, I know you.
This meat scholarship you guys got is paying off. I don't know how my parents did it, dude. With Andy and I both in the house at some point.
Well, it turns out hamburger is cheap.
We ate a ton of tuna fish.
Hamburger works, tuna fish. And one of the things I appreciate about what we've seen as a reaction to this has to be hyper organic, has to be first order of business is let's increase your nutrient density. That can be Walmart hamburger.
I think people get caught up in the idea that if I can't do what step 10 is that's perfect, it's not worth doing. Mm-hmm. And that's something I talk about recently, kind of having this idea of whatever it is you're doing, the more that you can drop expectation and just focus on intention, it seems to change things. And
Make the best choice available to you right now.
Even for the run training I'm currently doing, I know that if I think about expectation, I get more frustrated with the idea of going to train because I'm like, fuck, man, I don't want to go run 11 miles today or do any of this.
I'm slow.
I'm slow. I'm tired. My back and hip hurt a little bit and 2 hours of running. Whereas if I just go, let's go move for 2 hours. We'll run as much as we feel like.
That's right.
That's it. Just run as much as you feel like.
That's it.
And then one of those has an outcome that I'm stoked on because the intention was go move and it benefited me for the day. Whereas if I set this expectation and I didn't go get 10 miles, so 9.5's junk.
Yep.
9.5 still moves the needle a ton.
Worthless.
Do you know what I mean? Man, have some intention instead of the expectation. My intention is to eat food today that makes me better, that fuels me, that's a proper fuel for the machine. Having the expectation of I didn't hit all my macros today was trash. That's the brakes, my friend.
That's right. And, one of the things that, in the last month, we got this outdoor fire pit.
Yeah, right? I've seen it.
Shout out to Sea Island Forge. I have no relationship with them. It changed our life. One of our friends, Anya Fernald, who is the CEO of Belcampo, right? This incredible meat company that we love from the Bay Area. They have a farm in Northern California. Every chicken has a life coach. I mean, it's you have to cook the chickens differently because they're not shitty chickens, right?
Right.
So we were at her
you have
house.
to cook them a lot less.
Yes. We would go to their house and she has this huge cauldron with a grill that goes up and down. We're like, what is this? Because she was cooking 6 kinds of meat and cooking vegetables on it. And we were like, so we got one of those. And we have been cooking in our backyard for our neighbors.
Over wood?
Over wood.
Okay.
On a campfire, basically. Yeah. And it is amazing.
You have to manage ash and do all this.
Nope. It's so easy. I know. I'm like people are like, oh, the green egg is the only way. And I'm like, really? Do you have time for that shit? There's definitely a time where you need to turn on the gas,
dude,
cook whatever you're cooking, get in, right? But one of the things that I, have seen as I work behind the scenes of a lot of places is that all elite groups eat together. They eat together.
Yeah, sharing meals.
So let me ask you, are you eating together if you're in the car slamming down a Chipotle? No, that is not eating together.
No, that's just jamming food in.
That is fueling, and there's a time for that, right? Where it doesn't matter. Egg white bites on
Look,
the way to
I
put
don't
in.
need 3 meals a day around the fire.
No.
I don't have time for
But
it.
one meal a day around the fire
Or 2 a week.
will change your life.
Or 2 a
one
week with the people that matter.
Yes. So make that intention. And I think that's how we're going to get out of this thing. Because I think it's so confusing for people. There's a great concept by this guy, this architect, Matthew Fredericks. It's called informed simplicity. And when you start out in the world or new to thinking or your conscience changes, it's so simple. You're like, you have 3 blocks. And then pretty soon you've aggregated this thing where you're like, I take this turmeric and I do this secret scroll program and I have hack this. And you really end up with like 15 different non-relating compartents. And you
Right.
feel insane because what you feel like is I haven't checked the box on these 27 things, right?
No, like, well, I didn't sauna and cold tub today, so how am I even how am I gonna get these emails out?
And the goal then is to arrive back at this informed simplicity where you start to see how these things connect and relate. And one of the things that we'll get back to is, I'm like, look, sit on the ground. Watch TV fucking sitting on the ground, right? That's an easy way to change your life. Go for a walk with your friends after dinner or your family or by yourself. Right. Like one of the greatest things that you can possibly do is have a dog.
To go walk it.
To go walk it. It has nothing to do with, yes, you're going to feel less safe or more safe because your dog's protecting you. And when your dog's chill, you're chill. Kids who sleep with animals have less anxiety. Your immune system is better. I mean, just choose something you give a shit about. How about this? The dog asks you to go walk around the neighborhood, so you go walk around the neighborhood. And that means we're into the next thing, which is constraining the environment. How do you set up your environment so you don't have to make another choice? That is this part of this consciousness, that design the way you live. When you walk into your house, it feels clean. You're super stoked. You don't have to make a decision about that thing. Right? Leave your phone in the kitchen at night. You don't have to make a decision about, am I going to pick it up or not? It's heroin.
Yeah, it's way down
You're
there.
going to pick it up.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
it's great.
That's how we can start to untangle this hot fucking mess. And when I come into your life, what I see is, well, look, Matt has figured out a way to make it so that his quality of life is effortless. It takes a lot of intention and a lot of grinding so that you can then just lead a high quality life. And that's really where we've got to get to. Otherwise, we're going to be fucking miserable, more miserable than we are.
Well, there's a couple
and we're going to
things.
keep reaching for Band-Aids, and it's not working.
Well, as Americans, one of the things I notice is we really, really like trying to address symptoms instead of addressing root causes of stuff.
We learned that.
Yes. Well,
Right.
that's the capitalism side of our medical industry. Like,
industrialness.
we are not a proactive society. We're people that love staying on our heels and now panic and react instead of taking any of the front steps to gut what it is that's creating this feeling you have. And like even like little stuff, man, it's crazy to me the stuff that I still have to override mentally.
Yes.
With even like running right now, I don't want to go. Like most days, I don't want to go run. I would say 85% of the time.
I saw you couch stretch this morning.
Of course, I have to.
On the couch.
I have to, otherwise I'm crippled. It's little things you can chip away at, and like the running thing, it's crazy to me that I still have to override that feeling of like, I don't want to go run. Yet I've never had a run that I finished and I was like, well, that was a fucking waste.
That's okay. I think it's when my daughters get a little anxious about something, I'm like, hey, look, just means that you care. Right. And if you and there are enough cues, Art of War.
Yeah.
Or
dude,
sorry, War of Art.
is a great tool.
So when you feel the resistance to running, that should be a cue.
It's the challenge. The obstacle's the way.
The obstacle's the way, but you can use that as a way of like, hey, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have this hard conversation. You should move towards that. Right. I don't want to do this thing. That's a probably good indicator. And look, you're fighting 2.5 million years of evolution. Like, I'm not throwing this around lightly. You're designed to pull your hand out of the box, right? Withdraw from the stimulus.
And we've made a Dune. And we've made it to Dune.
Dune has entered the chat. And,
just over half an hour in, and we're
just
killing it.
So, I think when you can appreciate that your job is to spend the time on the couch, that and conserve energy. I thought, I think BioLane put up something, or maybe it was CogFit. that we're eating less sugar now than we've ever eaten in our country in a long time.
As a whole? Or is it because those of us who don't eat any really don't?
For those who do, that's right.
We're dying faster.
Amortizes to zero. But what's happened is I think we actually are starting to eat less sugar, but our food is so nutrient dense, not nutrient dense, calorically dense.
We're still fat.
We're still fat.
Well, yeah, because we're still not moving enough.
Well, and the food we're eating, like eat a steak, tell me you're still hungry.
No, I know.
But that food, that like those hamburger patties, eat a half a pound of hamburger, drain out all the fat, do whatever you want, get whatever meat you can afford, and then tell me you're still hungry and you're not. You know, there was a great post that, I think Myelin put up too, that he's had women win bodybuilding competitions eating a Snicker a day.
Right.
Because they're looking at calories, looking at inputs and outputs.
That's all that matters.
But and all of those women he talks about, even himself, he's like, look, they all stop doing it because it's not fulfilling, because it's this little tiny energy pellet and it feels great. But then you realize I can eat 17 pounds of something else.
Right. Instead of the Snickers.
Or the Snickers. And I'll choose the 17 pounds. So once again, I think when we can appreciate that we have to be a little more conscious, when we can make decisions that override that evolutionary urge, like we are still very much, brainstem beings. That's okay. Just acknowledge it. I mean, that's the whole point of having this second level of awareness, of being able to watch yourself. And now we're back into Buddhism, right? Where you can say, look at that, man, I really felt jealous by that. I really felt like, I deserve that, or I felt shameful by that. Suddenly you're like, you can watch that and appreciate what it is.
And also having some awareness to be able to start dissecting, why do I feel this way? And using that as an internal thing of being able to say, okay, flag popped up.
Yeah.
Let's deal with it. Whereas instead of a flag popped up, I need that to change.
Yeah.
No, it's here, sort you. And so like one of the stuff I'll get questions about diet wise, and I hit people with this because I like accountability and I like responsibility. And also I want you happy. I don't give a shit whether you're fit. And so if someone hits me up like, I'm struggling with losing weight because of motivation or just sticking to it, I'm like, well, we have two options. We either decide this is important and let's lean in and do it because it matters to us. And it matters to you, not because someone else is going to see you do it. Or let's admit we don't give a shit and stop caring.
Yeah. Or stop the pretense of caring.
So pick one.
That's right.
Pick one and either be fucking okay that this is what you are.
And that's what you want to do. And so you're right.
And you're totally allowed to do that, but you don't get to be miserable
right.
and not take action.
And I also want to get to a place where people recognize they have a choice, because one of the things that we did with this Cal Berkeley research we're doing is that we asked kids about basic health behaviors, and very few kids had any self-awareness in the 5th grade about food, sleep, activity, movement, health. And so what ends up happening is that people suddenly get to a place in their life where they're like, holy shit, now we're playing defensive. I have high cholesterol. I'm pre-diabetic. I'm diabetic. How did I get here? And some of us who are a little further in our journeys, we'll just leave it at that, who came from a place that valued that, right?
Right.
Or was aware of that, because it's interesting to watch I have a ton of super strong mutant friends who used to be 300 pounds who are now lighter than me.
Yeah, we have to be.
You're lighter than me. Mark is lighter than me. Chris Doven is lighter than me. You're lighter than me. I'm literally like, why am I the only fat guy left?
Are you trying to get a powerlifting total going?
I'm the only fat guy left here. Like, what's going on? So it's interesting that everyone comes to the same place, right? Hey, my body did this for a while. Now I'm making these other choices. But people don't have that choice yet. And we have to do a better job of bringing people along with us. That is the responsibility of being a human being responsible for your neighborhood.
I also think it's easy to be in the echo chamber, right? That where we are, to think like, okay, so we don't need to talk about single ingredient foods anymore. Like everyone gets it, right? And you realize, oh, no one does.
No one does.
No one gets it. Like the general population, the bell curve still doesn't.
Aren't eggs bad?
Right?
Well, I don't know how many you're eating. With what breakfast? By the way,
37.
I have to tell you, it occurred to me yesterday.
Okay.
This is still a little aside. This is for you, Caroline. This is how Caroline lives her life. My daughter, my 12-year-old. We have a breakfast burrito. We don't have a lunch burrito. We don't have a dinner burrito. We have a breakfast burrito. Mm-hmm. Why is it we've just singled out breakfast? It's not breakfast.
We just have other burritos.
I know, but there's the breakfast burrito. I just feel like it's an asymmetrical application of.
Aren't the others just called burrito?
Yes,
Anything
because
wrapped
it's
in
more important.
But I'm like, there's no pancakes in there. There's no.
That's a good point.
Right. It's just we know what but it's a breakfast burrito. Anyway, it occurred to me yesterday because I love breakfast burritos.
Same.
I was like, why am I? It is one food. Everyone's
I
like,
want you to know, I'm into anything that I can eat the container.
The styrofoam is terrible, but
Dude,
this breakfast
tortillas
burrito-
are just edible plates.
Love
This is the best
tortillas.
thing ever.
I have a supply of tortillas in my pantry, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
How old are you? 25?
Yeah.
That's
Of course he does.
It's
Yeah, I had to
always
eliminate
in
those
there.
as a
They're
carb. Like I
always
quit
in there.
lying to myself and I'm like, these are better than bread. And I'm like, they're not better than bread. They're more condensed.
It's flat bread.
Yeah, they're more condensed.
always
They're
in
an equal
there.
number of carbs.
Doesn't feel that way.
I was just boating last Sunday. So a few days ago. Speaking of, I was just
How's that arm?
yes.
You crazy person.
It turns out you can still get injured doing dangerous things.
Of course.
Which is what I want. I was like, what am I going to talk about with Matt today? I was like, how do we reduce injury risk? It's impossible.
No, it's impossible. Dude, it's
impossible.
roll the dice, right? Like,
Especially if you're doing rad shit. The gym is a really safe place. It's the safest place in the world is the gym.
but so this is something you and I had talked about a long time too. Like you and I have always looked at the gym as its GPP. Like this is built
Preparation
to get
for
me a thing to go do
something.
fun.
Yes. We've confused that's a really excellent point. And look, the gym can be the source of your culture and your family and
community
and physical practice, but it's very recursive. And what we've done is we've gone into the gym and said, I'm going to win fitness. I'm going to win the gym.
And it's terribly unfulfilling.
When do you win? When you take your shirt off? Because I just went into your like selfie mirror and I look fucking good.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm going to put up some pictures of us flexing our abs later on.
That mirror is definitely full of witchcraft.
I don't know.
I don't know
Is it
what
that
witch I ordered it from.
Harry Potter mirror where you get to see what you really want.
It's perfect.
But
I'm
that's
just behind
as
the
good as
mirror
I get. So
manipulating it.
what I realize is that I've won fitness when I'm in your mirror, right?
Yeah.
But the rest of the time, I think what we have as strength and conditioning has sped up and become very sophisticated. It's become very sophisticated in the last 10 years. I mean, if you didn't come out of an Olympic track and field experience, you were an Olympic lifter or Olympic track and field experience, you were not legitimately training. You were barbell
Right.
fuckery. You were doing some kind of, bodybuilding thing that you saw from Flex magazine and some 24-hour fitness. That's fine.
Yep.
But it wasn't legit. And if you look at how everyone's training now,
It's a really interesting thing that I only think about, like
you've been trained the same way.
Yeah, I never
your
had
whole
the
life.
bro thing. Like I never got into fitness for aesthetics ever. It was always performance.
Yeah.
It was get better at football.
Do you think that's because you came out of a sports side first?
100%.
Because
That all of my
if you
training
don't
was
have an
always there.
application to it, you don't know, or your life is in such a way that you don't know like why you're training this. Because it's one of my critiques of CrossFit legitimately is I'm like, look, there's no end to this cycle that you're in. I do more pull-ups so I can do more pull-ups so I can do more pull-ups.
Right.
And I'm like, by the way, pull-ups are a really shitty sport, just FYI.
Look, let's stop pretending burpees aren't a punishment. They're not a fucking exercise.
Well,
it's
if you ever run a
punishment.
football game,
Yeah, I'm aware.
Grass drills, get them going. So, what I always was training for something.
Right.
And it's really nice. This is why, even Greg Glassman's like, man, go play some sports. People are like, oh, I don't want to fuck that. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to get better at, Olympic lifting for the Instagram, right? Or more jacked. And again, I don't give a shit what your motivations are, but, it was interesting to be on the river the other day. It's a 7-hour class 5 paddle. And I'll tell you that I basically came off the couch, which is not what I recommend for anyone.
Yeah, but you're off the couch isn't exactly off the couch.
No, it's
right. Like,
I'm
so you have
not off the couch. No, I haven't kayaked this year.
but you have decades of kayaking.
Decades.
Look, if my body wasn't physically restrained due to whatever,
You could go throw.
I could go through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no problem. Take me a couple minutes to get some bearings on a few things,
for
but
sure.
we'll dial
It's all
her in
rusty.
that
It's
day.
rusty. Who am I today? What's interesting, I've become those old guys. When I was in my 20s, kayaking the hair, there were these old guys who'd show up and they'd like, blow off their like paddles, and we'd be like, "You're fucking insane, man! You know what's down here?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's fine.
I'll be all right."
And then they would have the greatest runs, and they were a little rusty sometimes, but then by the end of the day, they're not rusty and they're styling, and we're like, "Holy
They just
shit!"
need 2 weeks now to recuperate.
That's true. But it was so interesting to realize as I'm paddling into this class 5 second I've never seen before. I was like, "Oh, I'm those old guys now." But I am very fit, very capable, and yet I went over a little class 5, this little waterfall. Low water, had to kind of negotiate a rock, hung out on a high brace, and I tore my tricep.
Yeah,
which has never happened to me kayaking ever. I mean, I've had a few injuries kayaking, but since I've been paddling hard since I was 12 and still going hard in the paint, but I felt this little strain, and then I was like, I strained my triceps. That's fine. It's probably a little shoulder tweak, and then paddled 2/3 of the day, like in just another 10 class 5 drops, plus all the thing, and then I got in on driving home. Go to grab some French fries because I went to In-N-Out because I was starving. I basically was undercaloried and got in the car, called my wife. I was telling her I was alive, shaking and shivering. I was hypothermic, so I was like, as fast as I could get to In-N-Out, as many calories as I could get down. And I could not get the French fry in my face.
Oh, no.
Because my arm was so fucked up.
Oh, no.
Now I'm bleeding down the arm. You can see
That's impressive. I've never had that. I've never had an injury pool blood or do anything like that.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
The only thing for me is like post-surgery.
Yeah, I've never had that. I just have 17 knee surgeries.
100 knee surgeries. I'm really good at those.
What made me think of it, though, is early on when we were paddling, what we could afford was tortillas and peanut butter.
So I remember you talking about that. I remember you talking about just Taco Bell.
7-layer burrito.
Yeah, because you're like, they'll take the shape of anything you put them in. You just slam them into the bow of the boat, and
each one is like 600 calories. And people pull out these like crazy lunches, right, or like a bar, and we would whip out these 7-layer burritos. And people were like, "Who are you?" We're like, "We're aliens from the future. Just stick with us."
You're ruining it. Why wouldn't you just have 30 of these crammed into the bow of your boat?
And I'm like, "Oh, you don't have guacamole when you're in the middle of the desert wherever we're paddling?" Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Man, I have to say I've had some, been really fortunate through our friendship to have some pretty incredible experiences that I've just got to share with you guys. And man, the 2 weeks on the Grand Canyon was such a shift for me because there were some really interesting things, especially more and more in hindsight that I look at that trip of what's different.
Constrained.
Being away from my phone for 2 weeks.
Everyone. Tim Ferriss was away from his phone 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You, me.
Yeah, like gone.
Gone. Like no one. Do you remember as we're taking the bus back up and everyone's phone starts blowing up? Did you hear that?
Well, mine was in my truck.
Oh. Well, everyone else's phone was there and it started blowing up.
Yeah, so I didn't get anxiety about getting back. Like the anxiety of leaving my phone was gone on the bus ride out. Was like, all right, fuck it, that's gone. I can't do anything about it. It's great. Dude, I sat for it took me 6 hours to plow through everything on my phone, which really is 2 weeks. It took me 6 hours. That's doable.
Yeah, it's doable.
That's doable.
But it's not there. It wasn't there.
No, but you don't think about things in that term anymore because it's gone. Like, because the only thing that matters, especially once you're in that river, Earth becomes really big again because we're so far away from a thing that it's just like, if shit goes south right now, it's tricky to get out of here.
Yeah, we may or may not be able to get a helicopter.
Well, like I listened to John Wesley Powell, like his exploration of the Grand Canyon, and the stuff they gloss over is what annoys me. Oh, we smashed boats and hiked out and then tried again. I'm like, we're going to gloss over that half-day fucking hike of John Wesley Powell missing an arm? Like he did the whole thing with one fucking arm.
And by the way, it's not like, hey, we just hitchhiked back to the town.
No, you have a half-a-day hike to get to the rim, and then you're nowhere.
Then you're nowhere.
Then you're fucking nowhere in exposed desert.
The travel piece is what's been interesting with COVID. I think one of the reasons we love paddling and traveling is we come back and you see your surroundings with new eyes. So just you being slightly removed from your phone. Change your relationship with your phone, change your relationship with food, change your relationship with your bed, change your relationship with all aspects of your life. Right?
I didn't go into a structure for 2 weeks. That's an interesting one.
When's the last time you camped? If you're listening to this, when's the last time you camped for 16 days in a row?
Yeah.
Slept on a bed, had to construct a camp 16 days in a row. Not like
it's crazy that you'll adapt to sleeping that way.
Yeah.
And it won't beat you up you don't wake up every single morning hammered.
No.
It's a couple days.
Well, and there were some sandstorms. I don't know if you remember that.
I'm still sand.
Son of sand, still son of sand.
Dude, that sandstorm was so brutal that second night that we had.
You know, I just feel like, you know, one of the things that I had sort of forgotten, because I've been kayaking since I was 12, and out there on the river, I was seeing a brand new river for the first time on Sunday. And I was basically 20 years old again, responsible for getting myself out of the canyon. And the canyon has some vertical walls. It's called Giant Gap. And you can't hike out. I mean, there's some places where it's 5-10 to go out. If like something bad happens, you're really doomed. It's no easy way out. And just to be responsible in that way for that moment, like my consciousness changed. I was very like, you know, like the next time I go down the river, I'm like, fine, I know where everything is. But that moment, it might as well have been on the Mars. I'm the first human to go down. You know, I'm paddling by myself, taking like, you know, reading and running things. We call it blue angeling, where someone's like, go left, go left.
Sure thing.
Rock. All right. And you just kind of feel your way through it. But that experience made me super vulnerable and super aware in a way that I hadn't been. And the way that a little bit when you travel, you show up and you're like, I don't know where the coffee shop is. I don't know how to get to my hotel. I don't know where anything is. I don't know the language. Like we come back to being uncertain in our communities. And you don't need to do that 24/7 because that will create neuroses, but being uncomfortable. And here's an example. Something if you're listening to this, you probably are training. Do this. Eat whatever programming your friend. Have someone who's in charge of the program. You don't get to say what you're going to do. Just show up and do their program. Yeah. Your schedule and weight, it doesn't matter. Trust me, it doesn't matter. You can like you benched 3 times last week and you feel like you have a fucking bench again. Doesn't matter. You're doing cable crossovers. Okay, that's what we're doing today. But show up and have an adventure in the gym. And that's not, I'm not saying you should just willy-nilly go through life and follow someone's shit programming, but once in a while have someone show up and just do what they say you're going to do.
Well, but that's the super tourist, right?
That's right.
That I'm in shape enough to take part of whatever we want to go do. The same way that like I want to be in shape enough now, and so not compromised or being a liability, that I can go to Miami, and if we're going to do boxing training, okay. Yeah, I'm in shape enough to do that, dude. I don't want to say no and sit on the fucking sideline.
I'm going to be sore and I'm going to suck. But that's fine.
Perfect. I've been sore before,
and that's a great stimulus. Look how sore my abs are sore today.
Yeah, I won't die. This is great.
Yeah, I think that's so. If maybe you know this, maybe you don't know this, but I also had my knee replaced in October.
That's right.
Yeah. So we are bionic brothers.
We're dealing with our future overlord robots. We're just making the jump early.
Well, when my knee rebels and takes over my body, right? I have my robot parts. But you know, one of the things that happened was I had real clear expectations of goals. Here's what I need to hit. I need to deadlift this. I need to power clean this. I want to be able to do this. I want to, you know, but all of that is 100% bullshit. Those are metrics of mechanics. Like, did I eat enough macros? Right? It has nothing to do with the context of being a human. No. The context for me is on Sunday when I went paddle class 5, I had a 2-hour hike down with my boat into the canyon. Right?
That ain't nothing. Like, dude, that's more than most people's whole thing. Like, that's the experience.
We start paddling, right?
But dude, that's the threshold of entry, right?
That's my knee. Have I prepared my body to go have adventure?
Right.
To deal with the unknown.
I look at as an experienced person, and that's really where I am. I'm not an adrenaline guy per se at all. I like experiences and new things and trying to figure it out.
Being so scared that it's, you know, you want to be in that heightened arousal, and that can happen anywhere. Again, drop into your friend's programming. What are you doing today? I'm doing there. I'm uncertain. I don't know how I'm going to handle this volume or this kind of training. So to your point, experience is not necessarily the same thing as scaring the shit out of yourself.
Right. And so with the experience thing, I know that there's some really rad things I want to do in my life, and TikTok, because I'd say the last 20 years that I'm going to exist aren't the best time for me to do a lot of those.
You're not talking about TikTok.
No.
TikTok.
Yeah, like the clock, like the time left that I get to exist, right? I want to do these rad things, and there's a lot of stuff that's got a barrier of entry that's a certain level of fitness.
Yes.
Because these are the experiences I'm interested in.
That's right.
Like, it's how few people have done that Grand Canyon thing on the scale of humans. Like, that's very unique. How many people have carried the Husafell stone? How many people have got to do this? Like, it's this small group of people as life experience that it's shaping. And then like the Grand Canyon thing and like having enough credits to spend because you've made the deposits in the bank, right? And the confidence of it, because that's what comes from the training. And I try to explain that to people because I get self-confidence questions asked a lot. And I'm like, it's positive momentum. It's that I've put myself in uncomfortable situations enough and done okay or survived that we'll probably be okay.
I think one of the things that bring up, I think it resonates with the conversation we're having about how do I manage being a modern person and all of the complexity and bullshit. Like, I think about my mom as a single working mother, in the 80s, 70s and 80s. That was tricky for her, but an order of magnitude less tricky than today, potentially, with, all the things that I could get into, right? I was just like, my mom would be like, be home at dark. And I'd be like, that was the end of when she'd hear from me, because there's no text, there's no phone, there's no, Life 360, you can't find me, right? So I'm either at home or dark or not. And my mom had to learn to live with that, and she did, right?
Right, but so, I mean, with that said, and you have kids, like, is the world a big, scarier place now, or have we been convinced that it's a bigger, scarier place?
Yeah, it's a bigger, scarier place in our minds, and we can't keep the context of where we've come from. We have no direct lineage of how rad our families were, our adventures were. It's hard to hold that in your head and act in the moment. It's hard to sum all of your experiences of uncomfortableness and risk-taking and asking for a raise or having an uncomfortable conversation with a friend or interjecting because you feel like you're going to hurt someone's feelings. It's hard to summon all of that to the point of the spear when you need to act, right?
Right.
And one of the things that you bring up is so crucial, and it's really the heart of this whole experiment you've been on, is the physical practice for me is the thing. And I feel like one of the missions I've been on is trying to remove and demedicalize all of the things that should be responsible in the training environment. Like, the physical therapists are all like, the biopsychosocial model. And I'm like, you mean I'm a complex psycho-emotional human being who has a body and fueling matters and sleep matters? Is that what they're fucking talking about?
Right.
I'm like, have you ever been on part of a team? Because if you don't eat and sleep and you don't feel safe, no one competes well. I was like, welcome to being a competitive athlete, right? Like, I'm like, everything I've learned about the care and feeding of human beings, I'm serious, has come from the sport and training experience, because we can so tightly couple or see the relationship between inputs and outputs. Hey, Matt, I see you kind of suck today. What's going on? I'm super stressed. Got in a fight with my girlfriend. Not eating great. Smashed 3 pitchers of beer and some pizzas. I'm like, oh, look at that. You suck today. And we know why, right? And so we can start to make better inferences. My current sort of coaching theoretical hero right now is a guy named Frans Bosch, who is this Dutch writer thinker about motor learning, motor science. He's written a book. His most recent book is called Anatomy of Agility. He works with like Ireland rugby. He's a savage, Japan rugby. And one of the things he says is there's more variation in waltzing than there is in sprinting. And which means that at high speed, high load, high intensity, high demand, high risk, all best practices start to approximate each other. They look the same.
That's fair.
Right? You're going to see that all our athletes move the same way. Like, the differences between your throwing technique and other people's throwing technique is the length of your femur and the length of your torso.
Right. It's one of those things that, like, I always talk about. The way I describe that is if you're watching me throw from 100 yards away, or you're watching Ryan Krauser throw, or Nick Ponzio, or any of these professionals, you all know that we're throwing shot put.
That's
from
right.
100 yards away.
The difference is close, how much you rotate.
And those are based on my skeleton versus his skeleton.
That's right. 100%. And it's the best expression of the principles there, right? So what we end up seeing then is we can take this thing we've learned, and you can do this in the gym because you're part of this high performance experiment. Because again, your training right now looks very different than trained did 15 years ago. When people used to come into our CrossFit gym, they would barf all the time.
All the time.
All the time. Like,
that was a big deal.
Pukey the Clown was a thing because
yeah,
people would puke.
Thing.
Can you imagine barfing? I've never barfed during a workout ever in my whole life. I've done paddled a couple times where I've been nauseous after like lactate tolerance loops, right? I've been like, oh.
I've done some stupid prowler workouts that have cost. I've crossed that threshold.
Prowler flu is what I think they call
Puked
it.
once after physical activity.
Once.
And that was because I was extremely hungover and we ran a 5K.
Yeah, well, that's again, that's
You deserve
it's the egg rolls, not the ecstasy.
Exactly. There was other.
Dude, it's a line from Eastbound and Down where like Kenny Powers takes all this ecstasy and like goes to this middle school dance that he's teaching at and like gets sick and throws up. And like he's sitting there in this office and like they're kind of talking about him. And they're like, well, he blah, blah, blah. And he said, he was like, it was the egg rolls, not the ecstasy. Like, it wasn't the drugs' fault why I'm acting this way. It was the sketchy egg rolls you guys had.
Obviously.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't the getting over the night before. It's the workout's the problem.
It's fine. So it must be. So if you can, one of the things now is we fast forward and no one gets sick anymore because we have P90X, we have Soul Cycle.
People in better shape.
Right. They're in high intensity exercise thing is here. I mean, like drop into anyone's programming and like it's couplets and triplets that destroy people.
Oh, people can get after it.
Yeah. And so we've seen that happen. The high intensity thing has happened. But one of the things that you can start to do a little bit is appreciate that you're part of this experiment where we understand what we know about the best care and feeding of human beings. When we closed the gym down in COVID, we loaned all our equipment out. When people brought it back, They were like, oh, I thought the gym was about training, but it's not. It's about being seen. It's about being acknowledged. It's about having some unconditional positive regard. That's why the physical practice should be the root of your thing. And, Siddhartha is like, I can sit, I can think, I can fast. Those are all fucking like, meditation, physical practice, sitting, physical practice, right? Fasting, physical practice. And so suddenly what we realize is that physical practice for me can be the gateway out of changing how your brain works.
For sure.
Changing how you interact with your kids. Physical practice. And it doesn't have to be exercise. It has to be physical practice.
Whether that's going for walks or doing anything.
Not exercise. That's not exercise. That's not training. That is climbing a mountain. So these whole constellation of behaviors that we're being kind of dancing around, like, am I drinking alcohol? Am I eating food with friends? Am I walking? Am I sleeping? Those things I'm calling base camp.
Okay.
Then I'm like, let's just get you to base camp first. And if you just get to base camp, guess what? You'll look good naked. You'll feel great. You're not going to be very fit or very strong or be able to be capable, but you'll be ready to be able to train for those things. And the things we're talking about, this base camp behaviors, that's what makes you get to 100. Winnie, right, is 100 years old, has never fucking exercised a day in her life. You know what I mean? But plays mahjong, is in a community, walks a ton, eats whole foods, right? Eats all the gristle.
Well, it's still stacking the cards
all
in their
the duck
favor.
faces and duck tongues. I mean, she eats it all. And all of a sudden you really start to see, the physical practice is the thing, because whether we like it or not, we are physical beings.
For sure we are. For sure we are. And then the lessons that come from that too. Like that was one of the things that I've just been able to extrapolate is like, so everything I learned from my time pursuing the Highland Games thing applies to hate, applies to the next business, applies to the podcast. The biggest lesson I got from all of it is one that we've talked about a long time. And it takes 10 years to get good at a thing.
Oh, at least.
So if it takes 10 years, let's start now. Because I know where I'd like to be.
Best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago,
Yeah,
right?
it was 10 years ago, if not today.
That's right.
And it's this, we've talked about it a little bit with other people, and it's, someone asked me recently, like, who inspires you, right? Like, who are your inspiration? And it was another person's answer that I've totally adopted and I love, and I don't know exactly who it was. It may be Joe Dispenza or someone like that. But it was essentially that the person I'm inspired by is me 5 years from today. And so that's who I'm trying to set things up for.
Love it.
And I want him in better shape, and I want him to have options, and I want him to have the tools, but I'll never catch him. So I just have to try to move the needle today to make it better for him.
The way we've sold things for a long time is do this, otherwise you're going to get shoulder rabies.
Shoulder rabies.
You'll get, you're going to have knee cancer if you do this. Don't do this, right? So we have spent especially the last 20 years of chief marketing selling catastrophe to people.
You mean as a whole, like the
That's
world?
Right, the whole world. And what I don't think people appreciate is that the way to sell things is if you do this, you can go faster. Oh, no. You can feel better.
Not
you can have
fear.
better sex. You can wake up. and feel more lucid, and you don't drag and sort of, I think it's, we were talking yesterday, this says it all. Your brain is bananas. It's the most sophisticated structure in the known universe. Let's start there. Everything else is.
You mean this gray mushy thing that works like a hard drive that knows all my smells and sounds and song lyrics I shouldn't remember?
A lot of movie references.
That you can just push your finger through it if you wanted to? Like
no
it doesn't
problem.
have a
No
structure?
problem. No problem.
Fucking crazy electronic thing.
It is. Your brain is bananas. My wife famously was attacked by a hippo in Africa.
So wild.
That's another episode of the podcast. If anyone wants to go back and listen to Juliette Starrett, she covers all that, and it's amazing.
And we were just listening to a story about a guy who'd been attacked by a hippo, went down the gullet of the hippo head first. Spits him out. He gets drowned at the bottom of the river, waits out the hippo, goes to get to drag. He's like, I can hold my breath longer than this hippo can. He's just like, meanwhile, he's been punctured 17 times. Hippo's ragdoll him. It's degloved his arm. All of this, right, goes down the feet first down the hippo's gullet, right? All of the things. Experiences no pain during that experience. No fucking pain. His brain's like, no problem, we're going to deal. And he is now in charge of everyone else. He's responsible for everyone else. Doesn't even feel pain when he gets to the hospital. Just passes out finally and wakes up and is missing an arm.
Good work, brain.
That's it. That's
Thank
right.
you.
And that's what I want people to appreciate, is that you can access that savagery of this machinery, which is designed to appreciate change, intuition, gut feeling. All of that is part of this thing, rooted in physical practice.
Dude, so there's a bunch of days whenever I was dealing with the knee and hip really being bad.
Yeah.
And I would, Bonnie hates it, but I would describe stuff as like, well, tomorrow me's going to have to deal with today's decisions.
Yes, that's right.
That's how this goes. Like, I'm going to be really sore for the next couple of days, but I can't say no to this thing we're going to do. Here we go.
If you operate on, I do this because I can get better, or I can feel better, I don't think you realize how rich your life can be, how really amazing and rewarding. But we have to get through the bullshit.
But that's again back to that intention versus expectation. If my intention today is get a little bit better, eat a little bit better, think a little bit more, maybe read a couple pages, find something we're interested in, get better.
Get into bed instead of hour earlier.
Well, fuck, I don't have time to go for an hour run.
You don't?
Well, does the 30-minute run not good?
How about a 10-minute walk?
Right.
We scale this all the way back. When I'm working with people with chronic pain, persistent pain, I will prescribe for them 50 1-minute walks.
It's huge difference.
1 minute walk around the couch, and then you lay back down. You have to get as many of those as you can in a day. That's the same thing as running 10 miles. It's the same thing. And, I always like what Rebecca Rush says, our mutual super
What a
mutant friend. She's like, I race to meet the better me on the other side. And I want people to appreciate that, hey, you don't have to win today because the world is complex and shit's going to end up and no one cares. And tomorrow you're going to get a chance to play a little bit better. And you don't have to win. In fact, you can't win health. You're going to die. You're going to get sick. Juliette is probably one of the fittest, raddest people I know, super healthy. Bam, breast cancer. You know what I mean? So, you're going to have a surgery. You're going to get sick. Something's going to happen. I want to build the most stable, robust framework, network, system that allows you to tolerate and take the biggest hits.
And also because she's fit and because she cares about her diet and because she's done all this and she's done it forever, she's able to win. That this other thing, the cancer thing, is this huge negative thing, but she's built so much positive momentum and health that we can carry it.
That's right.
We can make through. We have stacked the cards in our favor that a bad thing has shown up. Whereas
when
if she's 20 pounds overweight,
it's going to show up. If you're past 40, it's going to show up.
It's sure as shit going to show up for, if you're interested in doing more. Like life gets complicated.
Yeah. And, what we think about when we're talking about, injury prevention is really it's injury mitigation. What can I control? Right.
It's no prevention. It's just trying to stack the cards in my favor for less chance.
I use that term sometimes, like on the cover of our book, as a way of because it's a colloquial term, right?
Like sometimes you got to get people in the room to give them truth.
Right. Well, and it's a colloquialism, right? Core. I'm like, stop, right? But you know what the concept means. So we can use the concept. So, But the key here is that we cannot mitigate risk as human beings. right? Completely. But what we can do is build a whole bunch of tolerance in the system for that. So that when you do trip, you're able to get back up and you don't break and you didn't spend all of your remaining credits, just dealing with the thing. I think that's where, I feel like we've really just, we've gutted how powerful people are. If there's something I want people to appreciate is like, you actually don't realize how durable and robust you are and how much your brain can do.
Well, I think a lot of that too, especially with training now, because of how things are and how people chase it, everyone wants to be so specific, but the specific they've chased is general training, which is really odd to be good at. Like if your sport specific thing is GPP, and then people won't vary from it because they're afraid going to do an activity won't allow them to go do the GPP training the next day.
Yeah. Well,
it's backwards.
I was a young physical therapy student doing a residency, and I was doing cardiac rehab. So I'm in the cardiac, all the heart surgeries, all that stuff. And I'm walking with my CI up the stairs. It's a 7th-floor hospital, and she just walks the stairs, part of her jam. And part of her jam was to destroy all the students that she had.
Crush them.
And she's like, here, you carry the walker, And we're on day 2, and it's the 7th time up the stairs. And I'm like, man, these stairs. She's like, oh, do you want to take the elevator?
I'll meet you.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, no, you don't understand. They're destroying my fitness. And she was like,
oh, no.
What? And I was like, yeah, these stairs, every time I do these stairs, I'm getting slower and weaker. But it's fine. I'll take them. and she was like, no one has ever said that to me ever. And I was like, well, I mean, my goal is to be fucking powerful and master the universe. And, and frankly,
I don't know the steady state bullshit you're doing.
These are going to hurt my power clean numbers. So, and my Metcon is time's going to go down. But, one of the things I think you bring a really good point at is we have lost the narrative around why we're training, as we said before. But one of the things that's happened for people is that the gym has become their entire physical practice. And so they think the GPP is the only way. And I'm like, look, you actually can't be Matt Frazier and do another sport. You can do Matt Frazier and do more Matt Frazier. You can do Rich Froning and do more GPP. You can do that, but you can't actually go box. You can't actually, if I took you through the volume that these kids are doing, this men and women who in what we've sort of deified, and then you can't take anything you're seeing on the internet pretty much and then actually go watch that person do another sport, right? Because you can't simultaneously. So it's interesting that track and field was the first group of people, and then you started to see pro sports like football saying, okay, what's the minimum amount of training we can get away so that we can throw further? Bondarchuk was really smart, right? And was saying like, hey, I think you can bench 600. You're probably good on benching.
Right.
Let's go throw some more. But you can't quantify it as the way you can on put another half kilo on the bar.
So with me going into this run thing, there are a couple reasons I wanted to do it. This isn't long-term. I don't like running.
No, it's an event.
It's a thing to train for. It's a carrot to chase.
I ran an ultra marathon. One.
What, a 50?
Yep.
Fuck.
8.5 hours of running.
Gross.
And I was like, I'm full.
I'm good on running.
I don't need to eat durian tacos.
I haven't run since.
I'm full.
For me, it was a couple things. It was, I need to point the compass at a thing that strength doesn't benefit so that I can leave that alone.
That's right.
And man, I'll get questions from people of like, well, how are you balancing strength with endurance training? And I'm like, I'm not. Oh. I'm trying to run.
And everything I'm doing is to try to support running.
Right. Why all of my training in the gym, and I mean, I'm still benching, squatting, deadlift, and overhead pressing of some sort every week because that's an ethos I believe in as far as strength and health for my body. Now that may be the barbell. It may be really light, but if right now the stuff I'm doing in the gym does not benefit my endurance and engine capacity in running, we're not doing it. I don't care what my strongest deadlift is while I'm trying to fucking run.
Well, you know what? When I was deadlifting with Mark a couple weeks ago, right? It'd been a long time since he'd pulled 500.
Oh.
I mean, he only pulls like
because
800, right? And he was like, wow, I haven't pulled 500 for a while. And I'm like, wow, you look jacked right now. Like you're jacked and tan. And it turns out you don't need to pull 500 to be jacked and tan. And I think...
No, pulling 500 is really good if you want to pull 600.
That's right.
It's one of those things you should figure out.
People, you know, when we look at GPP, and I'll put GPP as like classic, what we're seeing is generic good strength and conditioning now, right? More thoughtful, bigger range of motion, less machines. But sports-specific training is training where we care about your foot position. We start to care about mechanics. It's not landmine pressing.
No.
That's GPP. It is pressing overhead. And there's nothing wrong with landmine pressing.
No, it serves a purpose.
That's right.
There's nothing wrong with it as long as it's the tool for the job.
But the goal for me is to restore and maximize your available ranges. And until you can jerk or push press, I think you have an incomplete position overhead, right?
Look, I just hate whenever we try to create such sport-specific motor pattern in the gym for resistance training.
Right.
When go do your fucking sport.
That's right. Well, you got that right. And so sports preparation training is when we really start to care about the details so that you can go do your sport and it translates more effectively.
Right. It's like I don't need to put mountain bike handlebars on my landmine so that I can do rows with a thing that way.
That's right.
My shoulders don't care.
That's right. They don't care. And principles are principles. And in fact, your brain doesn't actually pick up the difference. But the third sort of iteration of that is sports specific training, not sports preparation, sports specific training. And the only goal in sports specific training is to support the sport.
That's it. Performance.
And as soon as you're done with that season or that event, you go back to sports preparation training. And if you can't do that, then you just GPP because it's fucking fun and you just show up and whatever and party, right? So what I want people to appreciate is it's okay to change in and out of this. It's okay to get weak and chase a rabbit or get interested in something. Or right now I'm less than 6 months out of my total knee replacement.
Right.
And I am obsessed with building fascia and musculature again. And I am as heavy as I've ever been in my whole life.
Pretty exciting.
244 pounds.
Nice work.
I am thick. And everything, I ride my bike with all our friends right now, and I'm the fattest mountain biker in California.
Even fun to be big though, and put the hammer on.
Oh yeah, well, but I'm riding next to people, and one of my friends has a watt meter on his bike, and I have one on my bike, and I'm like, I play like, what's your watt? He's like 120, and he's like, what's yours? I'm like 380. I'm like, do you understand how expensive it is to be me going up these hills?
Dude, that's trying to explain that to someone like with the run thing, right? And they're like, well, we're talking about fueling and shit like that. And my buddy, 130 pounds running or whatever it was, right?
Must be nice.
And I'm like, I cash 1,100 calories an hour. How is it you want me to hold that for the 7-hour event we're going to do? You think I'm eating 7,000 fucking calories during this event today?
A burger an hour.
I'm done on the back end of this thing. Like I have it, like real food has to get in. I'm not doing this with gel packs. Like,
so I think that's it. I want, one of my favorite questions, and I'm going to ask you this. What's your favorite weight?
Oh man.
You probably have several. What's your favorite weight?
The 285 I was competing in 2013, 2014.
Athlete I know has a favorite weight.
That one was really cool. I really like where I'm at.
Yeah. What do you weigh right now?
235. Or 230 yesterday.
230?
Yeah.
You slept.
Could have snuck in without those cookies. Maybe I snuck into some 220s. But
by the way, I want to talk about Matt and I and Bonnie had cookies last night.
Yeah.
You had them delivered.
Yes.
And this is what we're talking about as a side. You don't have cookies in the house because you'll smash the shit out of cookies in the house.
In the same way, I assume that I would handle cocaine. It is, I'll finish eating cookies when there's not cookies left.
That's right. That how much cocaine are we gonna have to do?
Right. There's not like we'll have cocaine tomorrow. I have to order more cocaine. It's the same with cookies. Like we're ordering tonight's cookies.
That's right, tonight, and they're gonna be done, and we're not gonna have cookies in the house. And I just think
until we order more cookies tonight.
And you have to take a step to do that. That's what I want people to do. But
and we're very Spartan-esque with food, and that's been a big change.
You eat Whole Foods.
Yes,
your kitchen is full of food. I open to your fridge and I'm like, oh, look, it's Whole Foods in here. There's not powders.
But this is one of the
foods.
Different things that I think people who don't get the nutrition and diet thing that isn't talked about enough, because we try to sell the general population on like, look, meal prep has such variety and things are delicious. Where the truth is, anyone I know who's fit and healthy as far as their nutrition goes, they're fucking robots. We eat the same 3 variations 90% of our meals, because most meals are fuel, not an experience.
That's right.
Now, if we're going out as a family or us going to share a meal, let's eat.
But even if you just recombine the ingredients,
and even that, like
it's ground beef, it's steak, it's like just rinse, wash, repeat. However you're changing the accoutrements.
That's it.
Dude, my favorite thing about the grocery store is going down the condom aisle and the seasoning and picking out new ones and figuring
That's
out.
it, because I'm just changing. That's all I'm changing.
That's all I'm changing every single time.
You're not fat because you're eating too much fruit. No, right? You're not.
Dude,
fat
that's my
because you're
favorite. It's my favorite Jim Wendler quote. Is like, find me one episode of my 600-pound life that person's surrounded by banana peels and apple cores.
It's not happening.
That's not it. That's not what got you fat.
And you can eat 800 grams of apples today, and you won't do it tomorrow because you'll be burned down on apples.
But why do people use that as the no? It's like we're like, oh God, but sure, I would do that, but you can't have fruit on keto. Like, that's your holdup.
Well, it's interesting. You even see like Paul Saladino, Carnivore MD, even pivoting, and I told him this, so it's not like, I was just like, I really appreciate that you went from like so strict carnivore to call like carnivore curious, and where he's like, oh, look what's on a carnivore diet. There's fruit here, there's honey here, there's whole milk raw dairy here. There's a whole lot of things.
It still to me is
food,
single ingredient items. Like be able to identify everything on your plate as that's a Brussels sprout.
But also, and to your point around your training right now, and the leading question about your weight is it's okay to change your weight. It's okay to get really strong and then be like, okay, I'm too thick and strong and now I want to come back. Or it's okay to chase something. It's okay to put 10 pounds on. We had soldiers going to Afghanistan. Man, we take 10 pounds off them.
Yep.
Soldiers going knocking down doors in Iraq.
Let's put 10 pounds
on.
We put
10 pounds on them.
Yo, build the machine to do the job at hand.
So it's okay. I think people have this idea of like this ideal weight. I'm like, no, let yourself get weak. Go ride all summer long. Do the minimum required to be faster on the bike. I'm working with this young, pre-Olympian superstar kid, just like he's 21 years old, biker. And he thought strength and conditioning for biking was really complex.
But so it's one of the things from track and field that always bummed me out. Is that all the strength and conditioning that I ran into with track and field, it's so incestuous because the way track and field grows is you have an athlete who gets really good, chases the Olympics, and then they haven't had a job in their entire life. So their only thing they can do is go coach.
That's right.
And so they use what worked for them,
That's right.
which is 80% really normal, valuable, can't argue with strength conditioning practices for GPP. But then they add in the 10% that worked for them.
That's right.
And they think it's magic. That's the 10% magic they add into the program, whether that's Russian twist or some weird specific exercise they think made the difference for them. And then they eventually have an athlete, despite their efforts, just because if you're at a place long enough, someone with talent shows up and would have done fine on any program because they're mutants.
They're mutants.
Right. Just keep them moving.
What do you do with them? Well, we do our sport a lot and then we do some exercise.
Then we're 5 generations in and I'm like, we don't deadlift? No. Why the fuck don't we deadlift? Like
makes me slow.
Why wouldn't we do the easiest movement to generate the biggest amount of strength and power out of this machine? We can change tempo, we can change the loading, and we can change the why we're deadlifting, but that doesn't make the deadlift the negative.
No. Oh, you're an Olympic lifter? Great, we're going to do high pulls. Perfect. We're not going to deadlift.
Right.
We'll just high pull today.
Yeah, that's fine too. That's a deadlift. Yeah, we'll deadlift higher.
With a little bit more upright torso. Totally fine. I think one of the things that, as you and I are talking about this, is we want people to have a much earlier training age. So, my daughter Caroline she's 12. She's in an Olympic lifting club. And where she goes with this young kid.
Now, with that said, didn't just start lifting.
No.
Right. She's been in this world now.
She can swing a kettlebell.
Yeah.
There's some fundamentals that she knows how to do, but her in this Olympic lifting club.
Well, it's her max squat and gear out of a monolift. I don't know why you're even wasting time.
Seriously. The last bench she was in, she was like, she only got 2 white legs.
Shirted?
So, I want people to see this much about coordination and physical practice and exposure as it is any other thing.
It's body awareness. It's figuring out how you move in space and
or
create
just
leverage.
Putting your tissues under load and exposure. So if you're some of the things I see is I'm like, look, I see a lot of, I'll call it modern Pilates, where we're doing a lot of like loaded yoga. You know what I mean? More physical yoga. I see a lot of the internet is full of that, right? So you could call it like...
Well, the knees over toe stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's loaded yoga.
Loaded yoga.
Sure.
And it's not denigrating
No.
knees or
You're not
toes
saying
or
it's
yoga.
good or bad. It's just another way to look at it.
Right. So you see a lot of the fitness pro women, particularly doing a lot of like monster walk, kind of those things, booty sprouting. That stuff is all what I'm calling is just like ground-based Pilates, like modern Pilates. That's what it really looks like.
Sure. You're
And it's exposure.
toning.
Yeah.
if you
Well,
will.
it's exposure. Hey, it's great. You're just taking these tissues to exposure. So when you start to look through the world, you're like, hey, this is a great, like pushing a prowler and dragging a prowler. And
Incredible.
is because the exposure is the thing. You're putting your body into planes and having to cross over and problem solve and connect. And that's why dragging and carrying are staples, you know? So, you know, as we're trying to get through this, I think we all want to get to the elite program, the secret squirrel. Like, is there really a difference between the 15 games prep guys at the top who are programming? They're all excellent. Find a person that you really like who resonates with you and speaks your language, and then stick with it for a while.
That's it, right? Like, so I had Flex Lewis on the podcast last or a couple weeks ago, and hasn't changed coaches in 19 years.
Oh,
And then the other thing he said to me
if
that
only
I
was
loved
more successful.
is as far as consistency goes, has never missed a conditioning session in 19 years.
Because that's
that's
the conditioning, not the strength,
just the cardio.
just the cardio.
He's never missed a cardio.
My
session.
default when I travel is conditioning.
Of course.
That's the first thing. I try to keep my range of motion small if I'm thrashed. The thing that people want to do is the thing they're the best at. Like, I'm going to go deadlift today.
So easy.
Right? It's just like, but the thing that I feel like is the least stable is my conditioning. That's the thing that I want to keep the blade the sharpest.
Well, I look at it like this, right? Like if my fitness is this whole category of max strength to endurance, these two opposite ends of this thing.
I promise you're already strong enough to do anything you need in the world.
I know. And so if this side is continuing to grow, at some point, the gap between A and B, this side's going to limit my ability to go forward on that side. So let's bring up some of the conditioning. Even if you're a max strength guy, this allows you to recover better. This allows you to train harder the next time.
Remember, what are you doing? Is it just recursive gym training? I think Olympic lifting and powerlifting has confused the narrative a little bit because they are sports unto themselves.
Right.
And so I'm using these training tools to actually do a sport, right? Fine. But if you're otherwise, you need to be looking at, what's the minimum dose? How do I expose myself to the biggest ranges of motion, have tissue exposure to develop capacities that I can go spend on these other things? Last week we had spring break. I finished the spring break with our girls by going on Class 5 paddle. The day before was a 3-hour mountain bike ride. We cross country skied, we boated, we alpine skied twice, we mountain biked, we fat biked, we trained. That was just 1 week. Like, what I'm really interested in is, can I keep myself ready to go have some adventure?
Yeah.
And what I call it is adventure fitness. That super tourist was the idea of adventure
Yeah,
fitness.
right. So for me, I have no doubt now at this point, like in my run training, that whether or not the 18-mile thing in Bryce Canyon, I can do it. I don't think it'll be easy.
No.
I've got 4,000 feet of elevation and 18 miles.
And by the way, you're 230 pounds.
Yeah, it's going to be a day.
Wrong engine.
Right, it's going to be a day. I'm not trying to be good at it.
No, you're going to have to do it to learn something about yourself.
I'm trying to be in shape enough going in that I can enjoy that
right.
experience.
That's
Because, I don't know, maybe I'm going to take some mushrooms and kind of cruise around for 18 miles. It'd be great.
We went, our friends were like, hey, we're going cross country skiing. And we're like, well, we haven't done that in a minute. But we're like, oh, it's
Let's
fine.
go give her a go.
So we went and skied for 2.5 hours.
Dude, I hate saying no.
Yeah.
I don't want to say no to fun shit with my friends.
And that is the way I think we should, is your physical practice preparing you to be able to be 100 years old? Peter Attia has this idea called the centenarian games. Mm-hmm. And it's a set of tasks he wants to do when he's 100, right? And, a lot of them are actual weightlifting tasks, kind of things like goblet squat.
Okay.
But what I want to do is elaborate on that great idea. Because when you set a goal, you end up working backwards.
Right.
That's super simple. That's where I'm going.
This is the inspired by me 5 years from now. Where would I like that dude to be? Let's just figure out steps between here and there.
And that's all. Like, Olympics are on Tuesday in June. We're going to just back up our training. And that's honestly how we've solved all training problems forever.
That's how I wrote the programming for my run. I was like, I have 18 miles, which I have to move at 2.6 miles an hour to finish in the allotted time.
That's what they know. that you have to run.
That's the speed I have to be better average than to be successful.
That's right.
And so let's just build the engine.
Those are not at 7.5 minute miles, by the way.
No, that was long. Yeah, it just
one rep.
That
max.
was just one. That's 1 mile. I can't hold that pace.
We in our family. I mean, obviously, Matt Vincent is a living, breathing, savage,
real person,
idol in our family. But everyone in our building talked about your 7.5 minute mile.
Yeah, man.
7.33, and we talked about that more than any lift you've done, anything you've done, because we're like, wow, look at how capable, how divergent, how what do you learn? And I think that's really what's capable here is you should be running experiments in your life every day. Run an experiment. That food made me feel like shit. Well, so I'm only going to eat it when I want to feel like shit.
Run the experiment and take data from it.
That's right.
And not only that, don't get locked into such a thing that you can't make some pivots.
It's hard. If you've had some success for the first time in your life, it is hard. When we see athletes fail, really, I'm talking about world champions, right? They will always default back to the training they did the first time they became successful.
Sure.
That is good human behavior. This is not working for me.
Right.
What was I doing when I was 19 and,
what have I lost sight of?
Right. So, the weight is a good example, right? Like you're going to default back to the happiest weight you had, right? The best weight I had. And, really instead of saying, hey, I'm going to keep aggregating this experience so that I'm more capable, that I, have more flexibility, and then chase your whims, rinse, wash, repeat, and then you'll run out of time. And then I'll be at your funeral talking about how rad you were. That is honestly it.
Yeah. I look at it now, just kind of another mindset shift on, because I get a lot, people want to know are you going to do highly? You're going to try to throw again, blah, blah, blah. Or did you feel like you left anything undone? And I hear that with people in powerlifting, because I was talking with Steffi about it, and she's like, yeah, I'll do another powerlifting meet at some point. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fucking why, dude? Is my question. And so for me, and how I look at it was, whenever I got into throwing and I got into lifting, as soon as I started chasing a sport that has a total, my overall goals here were, I'd like to know how far I can throw these things if I really give a shit. Same thing with strength. What's the most I can lift? At this point, now at 38 on a bum hip and a fake knee, and 60 pounds lighter, I'm probably not going to outdo those metrics.
Chances are slim. Chances are. My sources say.
Right. So, I found those numbers out. Now I can have a weird emotion attached to those not being enough, or not what my expectation of those numbers could have been. Or one more run and I could have got that total that would have been the thing. Nothing changes for you if you hit those numbers.
No.
So take some solace and take some confidence in saying, what I wanted to find out was how far I can throw. I know exactly how far this machine is ever going to be capable of throwing those implements. I gave it 100%. I poured into it. Eventually the machine broke. And so now, why am I trying to still figure out metrics I already have answers for? What else can this thing do if we can apply world champion mindset to attacking a thing? Whether that's my business, whether it's the run thing. Because the part with the run thing that's hard is the consistency and the showing up and doing the hours, and then realizing I have a 3-hour thing I have to go to. Where does that fit in to my day?
And I have to take care of my tissues in a way I didn't have to before.
Right. No. This whole thing's a lot of work. But I want to find out what else I'm capable of doing. And right now, I think realistically in this 16 weeks that I'll train for this run, very happy with a 7:33 mile. What would it take for me to shorten that time? I'd have to just focus on running miles.
No, and then you're
single mile.
And then when you run a 7 in the 6:45, and then and we see the same thing. Look, I think that is the thing that allows us to strive. Right? Can we do better?
A really smart thing.
So you're going to do a 20-mile run?
Dude, a really smart thing I got from Steffi, because they went out and did some race car driving one day. And so I think Hayden was asking her, how much did you like it? And she's like, I had so much fun, blah, 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 blah. He's like, do you think this is a thing you could get into? And she goes, I could, but I understand the danger of it. because the trap here is this is another sport that chases milliseconds the way weightlifting does or powerlifting does. It's getting 2.5 kilos and the amount of effort it takes to add 2.5 kilos or pull a second off your lap time. Yeah. And she's like, I don't have time for that level of a thing.
That level
and I love it.
Deep obsession.
And dude, be honest with yourself and know that.
Yeah.
And so that's why she's moved into boxing or whatever this other thing is. And I think that's such an interesting sport because I've never done a thing that I have to react to you to win.
What's interesting is if you're in a sliding sport, it's reaction and defense, right? And I mean defense classically. Like
what do you mean sliding sport?
Like skiing or mountain biking,
sliding.
Right? You have to interpret what's coming, feel what's happening, make decisions. That's what that's what fighting is. That's why one of the reasons it's so interesting, right? Kayaking is defensive art, right?
Oh, I've never thought about those things being similar.
Because what's happening is if you run it again, it's different. You're in a different position, different setup, different, like everything's different. All you have is how you react and how you plan, and in this moment sort of integrate those things. That is so interesting. When you are confronted with the same barbell, the same weight, the same thing, that's offense. That's running an offensive play. And it's a very different mindset to chase a millisecond. That's offense. Like I have to execute this plan and this perfect thing and I can control the variables versus like not an accident. I grew up ski racing. I grew up kayaking, right? And when I played classic sports, I love defense. Because I'm presented with a situation and all I had was my reaction to it. I wasn't necessarily running I like catching the ball. That was fun. That's not the thing. The thing for me was defense. Like throw something at me, let me interpret and come up with a solution for that. And that's what skiing is. That's what, so it's interesting because, in some of our classic training environments, what you'll see is there's a split between people in these strength sports or millimeter second sports where versus I'm fit enough to box, right? I'm strong enough to box. The fitness, the winning and losing isn't a millisecond. It's defense.
It's defense.
And I don't mean like reaction. I mean like defensive art, right? Like fighting.
You have to take less damage.
Not even that, but you're presented with a dynamic situation and all you can do is interpret and react and express. And that is very different. And it's a much more interesting conversation that lasts because it changes. This is why you can roll jiu-jitsu and be intellectually engaged your whole life because it's always art versus sort of offensive thinking. I'm going to have to throw this ball, this moment, Olympic sprinting, same, all of those classic, physiology-based sports, right? Cycling, one of the reasons that like Zwift is less interesting to me. It's a great train tool.
That's all it is.
But racing actual human beings, where you have to compete and manage and tighten and you're battling and that's defense again, right? Versus who can run the fastest.
Right. You're just hammering watts in your basement. You don't have to adjust or shift or jump a thing in the road. That's
physiology.
Or do any
and
of that.
It doesn't even say you being able to generate high amounts of force, high amounts of wattage. Doesn't even say you're athletic. It says that you can generate high amounts of force and high amounts of wattage. Oftentimes those things go together, but it's watching Jeremy Jones or Travis Rice or some of our best athletes compete.
Which is why you can't take someone who's a monster on a trainer who's never ridden outside and they can't just go win bike races.
Nope.
And that there's something about the sport specific experience that comes too that I think people miss out on. And that's where confidence comes. Like just because you're good at training, and people do that shit all the time that like, when do you think I'm strong enough to do a Highland Games? Like, I think you should go do a Highland Games.
Yeah, then you'll figure out what you need to get stronger at.
Right. And then not only that, like you're only allowed to be a kook in a sport for so long before people are like, hey man, you've been doing this for a couple of years. You kind of get your shit together. And so go enjoy and be a kook and see what that world is and then meet people.
And there's so many variables that you're going to have to manage. Sleep the night before. How do I pack my bag? What do I eat in between events? How did I warm? There's so much there, so much richness in that experience.
And that's a thing to also get good at. Like getting good at game day and getting good at like how you sleep the night before you compete. Or if you don't, then don't be stressed about that.
That's right.
Like you don't stress.
That's okay.
That's cool, man. So we're going to have less sleep.
a woman I'm working with named Kate Courtney. She'll be our Olympian. She's going to the Olympics in mountain biking. She's world champion, world record holder. I mean, she's a World Cup winner. She's amazing. The night before she won the world championships, her whoop tells her she's got a red. And she's like, nah, it's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. And then she goes and wins. And she calls up whoop, and she's like, yeah, your algorithm's wrong. They were like, no, it's not. She's like, run it. And they were wrong. Her algorithm was wrong. And she knew herself so well that she was like, it's bullshit.
I'm ready.
And I think that's what I want people to, we have to get back to feeling.
Well,
and it's okay that
all
it's
of those
messy.
Are tools, man. I don't understand why people get to let this thing. I talk about that like that's the taking the wheel for me. It is this accountability and responsibility. It is that the whoop score or whatever it is. It's input, but at the end of the day, I make that call.
That's right.
I don't decide to train or not today because some fucking device has given me a digit.
My paddling this river on Sunday, because it's been a while since I paddled a hard Class 5 river. Like maybe a 1 Class 5 drop in there or some hard Class 4, which is easy. I can do Class 4 my rest of my life, my eyes closed, no big deal. But Class 5 is different, right? It's just tricky. It's like playing Tetris with bad pieces. That's what Class 5 is. Like you're going to have to make some bad decisions. It's not a clean line. You just have to, it's just tough. But what I really like is to watch my mindset when I run first. So I go down the river first in front of the friends who've run the river before, and I'm exposed and have to watch myself make decisions, watch my internal dialogue, how prepared I am, what am I thinking, am I positive, how do I, what's my breathing look like when I'm exposed to uncertainty. Because I think we are really uncomfortable being uncomfortable. We're uncomfortable not knowing. I watched this with Caroline, my youngest daughter. She loves to watch movies she's already watched because she knows it, right? And she has her favorites, and she's like super Marvel girl. Like that's what her jam. Tom Holland is her like jam.
That makes sense.
And it helps that like Brie Larson is a person in her life, that she knows, but also, when I ask her, when I ask her to, have these experiences get uncomfortable, it's tricky. And I just see that is so many of us, we're uncomfortable not knowing, and that not knowing is the thing. And me going in and running this river, I could have let everyone go first and Eddie, because, classically when I was a much younger man boating, my friends and I would get to we'd get to a big rapid we'd never run before, and we would always kind of Rochambeau who got to go first, right?
Yeah, perfect.
Because like who got to go first, not who had to go first.
Dude, it's a quick jump in. I remember talking to Kaz about World's Strongest Man, and so like that going first and being the guinea pig, right? And then everyone's like, that doesn't work.
The sidebar bend.
They said so they start with the log vertical, and then they rocked it over to their legs and then went up. And we're like, why did you fucking guys do that? And he was like, first 2 guys that got to pick it off the ground tore their hamstrings. We just assumed that was wrong. I'm like, valid.
Totally.
Yeah, so we're not going to do it that way. We'll try another method.
It is so good.
Yeah, that's you guys going through the rapid.
So they would go first, and oftentimes I would lose this. I went through a phase where I lost a lot of Rochambeau. But I would go through and not get my face wet because I was able to have information and beta how they ran that and be like, I'm not going over there.
The left side's a bad idea.
That was some fuck over there. I'm not going over there. So, but it's really interesting to watch myself be in a situation because as you start to get into your 40s and 50s, you're pretty competent in your job. You're pretty competent. You know your friends.
Should be.
It is hard.
If you're not.
It's a work in progress, but it's hard to be a beginner and to watch beginner mind and to be curious to watch the process. And if you can get into that mindset and go in and start from scratch every day, I don't remember where I saw this, but I got this idea. And for like 6 months, I only opened doors with my left hand. Just to like change it up. And I go through the door not knowing what was on the other side, pretend like I didn't know every single time. And, that's a little dumb, but, left-handed. Now that I'm double vaccinated, I just lick door handles.
Oh, good.
So
good. Just open them with your mouth.
Because let's test drive this thing.
You drink water fountains like you're doing Pawnee, your whole mouth over it.
Pretty much. But, I just feel like, man, let's get back to beginner's mindset. Let's do enough exposure that your body and brain will be there for you. and rinse, wash, repeat, and we'll see it in 10 years. We'll see it in 20 years. And once you figure that algorithm out, your life will be more interesting.
Well, so even with my journey of things is, chances are I'm not going to find the second sport I get to be best in the world at.
No.
I'm good with that. I found one. I got super lucky. I scrubbed away at niche things until I find one that my weird attributes all equaled good for and not enough.
I'm going to go with the best in the world at throwing rocks in a field.
Right. It's perfect. Perfect for me, right? I won't find a second. And that's cool. But what that opens up, like knowing that I won't find a second. So how many new things now can I just steal all the beginner gains from? And I can do that with running in 16 weeks. I'm just going to steal all the newbie gains.
That's really fun.
And then bounce. And so like with running, after this is done, I'm not interested in trying to go run a 50 mile. I have no care for that. But I like the engine that got built while I'm doing this. And now I know, if you can throw 2 5Ks in your week, this engine stays.
That's right.
And then that benefits me on the bike. That benefits... Not only does it benefit me on the bike, it benefits me in life because I can run longer than other people. I can handle some little bit of stress.
That's right.
For a longer amount of time than other people can.
And when you're traveling, you can always go run.
Right. Dude, that's another great thing is I just need shoes.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah. And it can be hill repeats,
It doesn't matter.
You can put a ruck on and go walk around your neighborhood. Yep. That's running.
Yeah. Just and the benefit of being outside, the benefit of being able to double use that time that I am going for a run of listening to a book on audio.
Look, I love that you were the best in the world. You're one of my strongest mutant friends. Look, when you were 6 months out, a little over 6 months out when we rode in Moab for a week. And I was like, fuck Matt Vincent and his aerobic engine on that bike. I don't think people realize how fast you are on the bike and how capable you are on the bike.
I came to that trip ready to roll.
You were ready. And I was like, and this is one of my strongest, best athletic friends, right? Like athletic, not like a physiology mutant. Like, hey, you can get on this rowing machine and generate watts, right? You can actually compete. And I just don't think people realize what a mutant you are aerobically anyway. So it is fun to go find out the thing. Even if you thought you were the best in the world at this, there's a lot more to go be a beginner at.
Right. And that, man, and telling people, and especially with this run progress of like, there's linear progression. And granted, like I was riding a lot beforehand, so I'd built a little bit of an engine, and I really noticed it last year when we all did Sufferfest, me, you, and Rod. Like what changed when I added 150 miles a week on the bike versus 100.
Yeah.
This big ramp up of ability took off. But it's hard for me to hold 150 miles a week. 100 I can do. I can do the 5 hours.
Yeah.
And so once running switched to, we're doing 5 or 6 hours of running a week, big shock, the engine takes off. Now it's going to hurt some other things. But I'm not trying to do those things right now.
That's right. That's right. And I don't know if that's the right word. It's good to go out again. I think,
or at least pulls the light off of.
If your pull-ups go from 30 to 25, you're not a bad person, especially if you learned a new skill. If your deadlift goes from 600 to 500, that's okay, unless your deadlifting is the thing that you care about right in the moment. What I want you to people go spend your credits. Go be interested. Go pick up a new skill. Go play a new sport.
And even if you don't
go learn to cook.
If you don't know what your thing is,
that's even better.
Try some stuff and then go, oh shit, that wasn't for me. Sometimes finding your thing is a process of elimination and just go like, well, I know that isn't anymore. That narrows the look.
We went, long time ago, I went doing some practical shooting with some grandmasters. And, I've been shooting a long time. I'm not incompetent. Right. I have decent skills. I had some really good instructors from some elite military groups. Yep. I pour some money in and time in where I shot a lot. And one of the guys pulls me aside and is like, hey man, you have real potential in this sport. And I was like, no, I don't. This is fun. This is a total hobby. I
appreciate what you're saying. No, I don't.
Trust me. Like Steffi, like, I understand what happened. Cause I was at home, like doing my reloads and like,
no.
And then I went on the internet and I was like, there are men in their basements who do this for a living. Like,
yeah.
This is all they do is, practice reloads. And it's like, it's not.
It'll never be me.
It's not going to be me.
No, the same way. I'll never.
I am a dilettante. I love to be competent in so many things.
That's it, right? Like so I just want all the beginner games.
That's right.
And even with like running, like, I don't like it. I don't enjoy it yet. I can do it. And right now, it's far more for me to be able to say, like, I didn't miss any training.
Do you remember The Abyss, where he takes the mouse and he puts it in a hydrofluorocarbon? It's Steve Buscemi's mouse.
Yeah.
And
Steve Buscemi's in The Abyss?
Yeah.
No way. It's another actor.
Negative.
I'll roll the dice. See if Steve Buscemi's in The Abyss, Brant. We have the technology.
I thought it was Steve Buscemi. Maybe it's a different guy. And he traps him and he's like, see, he's digging it. He's like,
digging it.
He's doing it. He ain't digging it.
Yeah, right.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
Am I wrong?
Let's see. What's the cast? Was he like a main character?
Yep.
Well, he's not popping up on this top list, so I'm not.
I can picture the guy from The Abyss, and I can't tell you what else.
What was
he's
his
in, but
character's
know
name?
I thought it was Steve Buscemi.
Do you know his character's name?
He was a guy with a rat. I don't know.
Dude, there's some serious people in The Abyss. Come on.
Of course there is. Yeah. There's great actors.
Yeah, James
in The
Cameron.
Abyss. Yeah.
I mean,
Plus,
there are Academy Award winners in there.
James Cameron's weird for a long time.
Yes.
You start like
space water tentacle. Come on.
Yeah. What an interesting fella.
I grew up. My favorite movie of all time is The Big Blue. It's Luc Besson, early Luc Besson movie about free divers. Enzo Molinari, Jacques Mayol, the rivalry of these French and Italian free divers.
Free divers, man. What a weird rabbit hole.
That weird.
To decide, like, you know what I'm going to find out?
How long I can hold my breath.
And deal with pressure.
Yes.
Because you could just hold your breath on the surface. It doesn't change anything.
So that's where I've become obsessed with. Like The Abyss, I was like, ooh, I'm back in. It's still the obsession.
Let's talk about just a few things. I guess since we're 2 hours in, the Ready State. Like, you guys made a big branding pivot.
Yep.
And switched away from mobility WOD. And like, I know we had talked about it. And I mean, talk a little bit about that, because I think it's a ballsy move, man, to be able to build a thing and then be able to say, like,
wasn't the best change.
Rebrand.
It wasn't the best name. Look, when I started the mobility project on the web, I started making content for the YouTube over 10 years ago now. Mobility wasn't a word. So if you use the word mobility in your training around, it's my fault.
You're welcome.
I invented the word core or extreme.
If you're currently foam rolling,
it's my fault.
There's some bit we can dress
mobility.
back to you.
So I was super clever, and then there was no WOD company at all. So we were Mobility WOD, and I was like, work out of the day. So the first blank WOD.
So still at that point, CrossFit was using WOD,
but it's CrossFit, and then I was the first branch to grab WOD, and I was like, I'm so fucking clever, Mobility WOD. I am the shit. And then pretty soon I'd be talking to people, and they were like, WOD, and I was like, no, not WAD, WOD. And what's Mobility WOD? And I was stuff like, and then
it only applies to this.
And then ROMWOD popped up.
Yeah.
And it was a great yoga group, but range of motion WOD was very confusing because we had very different approaches, and mobility WOD versus range of motion WOD. And then Go WOD popped up and took Supple Leopard and took our ideas and took our courses and transferred it into an app with no affirmation. No, this is where we got these ideas. And super bummed me out. And also, just came in on the back of of breaking the ice. And did some great things with their app. Spent a lot of money supporting athletes, which I'm so all about. I think that's fantastic. But it was very confusing in the marketplace to explain to people. And again, helping elite athletes isn't the end all. Like, should not be fighting for that little tiny slice of pie. There's so much pie.
But those people are going to do it anyway.
So we'll go ahead and cast a bigger net.
No, let's try to help the big picture.
And I've been talking about Ready State it's actually in my original notes from the first course I did in 2008, which is about kind of how do you optimize your physiology and psychology to the best of your abilities today to have a positive outcome. That was sort of the idea.
I love it. I love that whole concept.
How ready can you get today? And I mean, you're injured today. Okay, well, what are we going to do to get ready? How do we maximize this? Like, you're sleep deprived. You have a newborn. You've flown a red eye. You're under major stress. Your wife is sick. What can we control? That sort of readiness state. And that came out of my realism of working in high environments, in high intensity environments, high profile environments where people were taking red eyes, or they were only sleeping 3 hours a night, or, where I was like,
we can pretend to say, like, you need 8 hours. It's like, this doesn't work. You don't have my life, and I don't know how to explain to you.
I'm at the Marine Aviation Weapon Tactical School, and everyone's sleeping 4 hours a night. Yep. And I'm like, sleep more, good talk. Right? So when we pivoted, it really was a chance for us to also, what we had done is also create this thing called the Library of Congress of stretching videos. And, or it was the Library of Alexandria, and you're like, the scroll I want is
The
behind.
Library of Alexandria.
It's behind the pillar on the left. And that's where our people were doing. And we just had too much content. So one of the things that we got a chance to do is to separate from these people who are thinking they're our competitors. So we're not competitors. We're just in a different game, playing a different thing. And then secondarily, we had a chance to reconfigure and rethink, because we had 10 years of experience. How do we want to deliver this information? How do we make it easier for people to find what they want? And so we had a chance to just hit reset and level up. When we opened the gym 2005, we're on Yahoo Small Business. Just say that out loud. Yahoo Business.
Yahoo Business. Seems a bit antiquated.
But that was our choice. In fact, we had all these millennial coaches who were like, "Oh, come on, Gmail." We're like, because Gmail didn't exist.
Right.
Right. They're like, you know why we're not on Gmail? Because Gmail wasn't a thing.
Right.
Right. When we started this thing, YouTube wasn't a thing.
So when you guys started San Francisco CrossFit, like, it was, what gym open was it? Like, it
21.
was 21st CrossFit gym open in the country.
You put your check in the box. There was no Rogue. How's that? People were like, what?
Rogue made rings.
They didn't
even do that.
Not then.
No, because you were still building equipment.
Because you couldn't buy it. It was
Right.
too expensive.
Nothing exists. Same thing whenever I got into strongman.
Yeah, you had to make your own stuff.
Oh, I made a yoke.
Yeah, we made prowlers.
Yeah.
We welded squat racks. We made our own pull-up rack. I set our mats on fire with a welder I bought.
Why are you welding? I love it.
We welded we took this old commercial tire frame and put welded a monkey bar system on top, right? And it was like, I had like 60 feet of monkey bars, like, monkey bars and pull-up racks. I had the longest pull-up bar in CrossFit history. And my friend and I, who is an artist, and he and I are welding all day long, and he is an artist, so he pulls his little bespoke glasses, like his artist glasses up, and he pulls, and I'm wearing a full face shield, and I'm like, dude, do you know how much UV this thing fucking throws off? You are so sunburned, you idiot.
Right, you're cooked.
He's so cooked. And he's like, well, at least I'm not welding in shorts. And I was like, what?
And your legs are just burnt. Yeah.
Burned the insides of my thighs so badly. So we made everything. And, again, when we had a chance to rebrand, we had a chance to reconceptualize. Because what had happened is, we created the category. We created this idea of physios going outside, starting the cash base. Like, we really have helped popularize a lot of things that we all take for granted now. And, I think what people don't appreciate sometimes is that sometimes these other businesses, these legacy businesses, have these historic, it's not easy just to switch on, switch off. It's really easy to watch 10 people run the line and then have a perfect line, right? Mm-hmm. So you could come in with different technology, different ideas, and we got our lunch eaten. Some of the low-hanging fruit, people did a really good job of it, because it takes a second for us to change our data set and recategorize our stuff. So it took us a minute. We knew we wanted to change, we've been working for a while.
It's easy if you're leading the charge, right? And you're out leading the charge and you're miles in front of someone else, it's easier for them to go, oh shit, they missed an exit.
That's right.
And you're like, fuck, U-turn. We have to get back to that exit.
That's right. I think that's really a safe way to say it. So we had a chance to say, hey, look, we think we can help more people besides CrossFitters, right? Go Wad and Rum Wad are siloed into CrossFit forever. Mm-hmm. Just by the nature of their names and where they are. And that's great. There's so many CrossFitters who want to help, but there is also I'm interested in a lot of other athletic communities.
Right. And that's why you guys have focused, not even despite being such a big, stable within the CrossFit industry that, you guys were with CrossFit, with Rogue, with all these other type of things, but you started doing other stuff. Like the other stuff that you have interest in is Stand-Up Kids Desk. It's these type of big changes that are societal changes. And
helping untangle the performance pain knot on the military. Because I remember I get to go,
right.
Before shutdown, my last talk was at the NFL Combine. I'm speaking to every strength and conditioning coach in the NFL at their annual meeting. And they were like, you got 3 hours to talk to every coach in the NFL. I'm like, where's Ramwad?
Right.
And no shade again.
No, that's exactly right.
But I'm playing a different game.
Yep.
And when we confuse, because the name makes it confusing for people.
You have a different message that you're trying to get out that plays more to everything.
We are going to need more voices and be comfortable with more voices doing similar work, because we all have slightly different dialects and different interests and look, I'm bald middle-aged guy. I don't speak to, every woman. I don't speak to every man. Right. I'm going to speak to my people and I'm going to do the best I can. And then my friends are going to come up and help solve that other problem. Right. So the rebranding was, I had this idea. I was like, Jay, we're going to rebrand. Call it the Ready State. It's going to be so great. Let's just do it tomorrow. And she was like, hun, I was like, no, we just changed it. We just like, you go
easy.
You in Instagram.
Where it says our website
you
name.
hit delete.
Yeah, you type in the Ready State.
And I was like, and then Kumite.
Kumite.
I've heard that.
My wife was like, what about the SEO? And I was like, what? What's that? Like, what about our tech stack?
Rebrands work.
Yeah.
It was, it's just like, she's like, we have to have a new logo. I was like, nah, we just delete.
Perfect. Call our logo guy.
I'm like, what are you talking about?
The Ready State. I wrote it on paper.
It's easy. We're done. I've already decided. I'm already moved. We're already the Ready State. I've just already decided. I'm in a post Ready State world already.
So many steps to back that truck up to get to there. And like, I'm aware of that number of steps. And then like, we built the thing for 10 years. Now we're just going to change the fucking
No, it's
name.
totally fine. It's totally fine. So, again, I think what's been useful, and one of the things I want people, we've been talking. There's so many takeaways here, but your physical practice informs so much about the rest of your life and about consistency, a little bit of work every day. Juliet, CEO, my wife, world champion superstar, goes and speaks to colleges and college women graduating, and they feel like they don't have any skill. And Juliet's like, hey, hang on. You've been on a member of a team. You've shown up every day. You know how to work. Like, you actually have all the skills, and and she'll hear other people say to these women, like, you need to take self-care and care of yourself. And Juliet's like, fucking bullshit. You know how to outwork everyone. You know how to grind and show up when you're beat up and show up when you're hungover the next day. She's like, that's your fucking superpower.
Look, complacency
do that.
and confidence aren't the same
No,
thing.
not the same thing.
Like, you can have self-love and not be complete. Like, I hate that mentality of like, be happy where you are. Like, fuck that.
Fuck that. Hate. That is.
We're going this way.
When I first saw HVIII, I was the HIV.
Yeah, I don't know if this has been great long term.
My kids can wear your clothes to school now because they don't have guns on them. Thanks very much.
I grew up in the South. I don't understand.
And you're like, they're dueling pistols. I'm like,
it's different.
It was better after Hamilton.
Find me one crime that's happened with these guns.
Alexander Hamilton. And
what do you think about the guns?
That's right. Oh, I know.
So those are actually molded off of the bridge in Lake Charles.
Oh, that's cool. That's super cool. Is that why there's dirt on them still?
That's where I got the logo from.
Oh, that's amazing.
Was from the bridge near the house where I grew up.
Oh, I love it.
They're all Jean Lafitte pirate pistols cover the bridge.
Oh, that's so fun. That's super fun.
Yep.
I love it. And, you have the right. Look, my mom's a psychologist. Carl Rogers is like the godfather of unconditional positive regard, right? The idea that you can actually reinvent yourself every day, and you have the right to reinvent your work, the way you talk about it, the way you talk about how you eat. And we just applied the same rigors of the things that we learned in sport. We're just like, okay, now this is where we're going now. We're just changing some things a little bit. And that is what we'll keep doing. We'll keep trying to play a better game. Right. And then we'll run out of time, and we'll, eventually, hopefully some big company will come in and buy us because they need content, and that'd be great.
If not, the ride there is cool too.
In the meantime, I have plenty of work.
Also, look, if you miss doing enough rad shit that the big company comes to buy you out by, say, 10%, the ride's still cool.
Oh, yeah.
It ain't like, oh, we missed it and blew it. No, you've
told
done
me a
well.
story about doing dope shit with dope people.
That's it, man. Kanye West.
I do dope shit with dope people.
That's it.
That honestly is the goal. It is so fun. I have so many uber talented friends that I don't compare myself to, but I am so inspired by my friends' success.
Dude. And not only that, share stoke.
Share stoke. Celebrate all of the wins in your community. Point positive. Don't be shitty on the internet. If you want to get blocked, be a dick on the internet. If you want to talk shit, do it on your own channel. Don't talk shit on someone's channel.
What an exhausting waste of RAM.
Yes.
It is in your head to even, what are you doing, dude?
Use your internet voice, your vote, right? Which is a small vote.
That's all. To
vote for things that you love and give you excited. Drag people along with you. Look at this awesome thing. Like if I see something that I don't agree with, I just move on. I don't
also
feel like
back to accountable and responsible. People that are stressed out by social media, right? Like who look at Instagram and it causes them anxiety and causes them stress. It doesn't have an opinion. The algorithm doesn't have an opinion. No. If you are seeing a feed of shit that stresses you out, it's because you interact with shit that stresses you out more than you do things you like.
The number of cat videos in my suggest is insane.
Right.
I try and curate exclusively cat videos.
That's it, right? Like just you don't bother if you
There's
don't like
a jacked
it, change
guy,
the channel.
and I slow down in the explore, or the jacked woman. I'm like, it knows I slowed down. And I had to go pick a cat, and I'm like, boom, cat video, cat video, cat video. And now I have a lot of cats that show up in my back to cat videos. It's really what it comes back down to.
Yeah, it amazes me that people don't see. All it does is give you. It's a mirror. It's whatever you're into. It just gives you more of it. So pick rad shit.
There's a lot of kayaking videos. Yeah. There's a lot of Chinese Olympic lifting.
Like weird mountain biking or weird car
lots
stuff.
Of meat cooking.
Yeah.
And then lots of cats. I think this is an interesting experiment. Grab all your friends' phones and go and see.
Look their Explorer.
Look at their Explorer.
Oh, mine's a disaster.
It is a disaster. I called you out on this morning.
I know. It's just hunky dudes and ladies.
It is. And they're jacked.
Yeah.
But it makes me feel not pretty, Matt. I was like,
I just look at what's possible.
Well, that's all it is. What I think is, how do I build my life around this mirror? It makes me look so good in this gym. Look, if you happen to be in the San Luis,
this is the place. Come get a selfie.
Dude, I cannot. You can charge for it. This is your next business.
$50 selfie.
Dude, whatever going right. Step 1, throw rocks. Step 3, selfie empire. Wait, what?
Oh man. But that's another thing that I think, just keep moving, right? Like this wasn't the plan. I didn't plan to do this. This wasn't like, I'll write a book, we'll get into the Highland Games, I'll make some shirts, and then I can build a facility and make good friends. And like, no.
Dave Epstein wrote a book called The Sports Gene, which is required reading. If you're in our field, you need to read The Sports Gene. It's just the implications of our genetics on all this thing. And you have a little bit more free will than you think, and a little less free will than you think, right? But his next book is called Range. And a little bit of what we're talking about, it's about how generalists rule the world, and that the hyper specialist is not the model. And part of this idea of being a savage generalist, with my phrase, is that you can start to make connections and see relationships and patterns. So if you only do one thing, one of the, I think, the hallmarks of your interest is that you're so competent in so many domains of training. And this you're dabbling, I'll just put it in quotation marks because it's real. The training you're doing is real for a real event. But the dabbling you're doing in running is expression of what I'm talking about of having a big range so you can understand it, understand the implications of it, see how it fits in.
Well, now I have at least I now have an experience with running.
That's right.
And I'm not basing it off like, oh, that won't work for me.
That's right.
Which is horseshit.
That's right. Well, and you're like, I don't like to run. Well, great. You're going to run 2,100 meter sprints. How's that? Let me know how that goes for you.
And I'm okay with, I don't want to run. I know there's an end date to this.
Right.
Like I'm not trying to become a runner.
This range idea is really crucial to being a more interesting, dynamic human being, is to keep developing your skill set. And part of his book idea that I'm going around the barn the wrong way to get to is keep making the next best decision that you're confronted with. There's no pathway. If I look at myself like going to PT school and where I am now, there's not some straight line.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it's like, someone traced the outline of that ship that was stuck in the Suez Canal, and it looked like a penis. Did you see that?
Yes, yeah.
Right? And I'm like, you don't set out. I mean, that's what my life path looks like. It looks like where's he going? Why is he drawing balls with his life?
Who knows?
Right? I don't understand. But if you just keep making the next best decision, that's available to you.
But also not sit there and back to the analogy of skateboarding or being able to fall. Like don't fear falling.
No, that's part of the plan.
Right, because that's part of the plan. And Brant and I have talked about this with our business. And like what we're doing is we're not going to be scared to make decisions. Let's fucking make decisions, and then that decision guides.
That's right.
Not try to this infinite paralysis through analysis before you ever make a decision of like, well, I don't know enough. I don't know enough. Fuck that. Make a decision. Was it favorable or unfavorable?
Yeah.
If favorable, we do more of that.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to like being decisive and decisiveness and just making decisions and choices, like if I think about what I was like a year or so ago compared to like now, just with everything and like making decisions, I just fucking make a decision.
But also the world that we've built with hate and the media that we produce and the content and the speed at which we do it with a small team.
We don't have time.
We don't have time.
You don't have time to.
No, it's great.
It's great. It's great. Like, the same way. We have staff who one of our staff is the director of quality, and she is a little OCD.
Perfect.
And legitimately, and she sees like the matrix the way I don't. I'm like, what? We have different kinds of font on our website? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, didn't you notice that? I was like, no, but also
See, I notice all
I
those
don't
too.
have time to mention that. Like, that's not where I have to go in order for this thing to work. So, to your point, just get going. Just get started.
Make decisions.
You'll make the next best decision.
The people that will put that barrier to like, I'd like to start a business. I'd like to do this, but what about trademarking your business? No, sell a thing first.
Listen to
Uncle Sam's not coming after you immediately. I promise.
That's right. Listen to the founder of Netflix on Tim Ferriss's show.
God, I need to listen to that.
And only because it speaks to what you're talking about is everything is data point, and it's okay to fail fast or to make a decision, say that didn't work, and then I'm not going to try something else, right? And I think, the dogma of nutrition is a good example of people who are just getting sucked in versus, hey, I tried that, it didn't work for me. This is working for me, great. And even if you take that filter and you're watching people have success with something, oh, you're carnivore and it's working for you and you love it and you're sustainable and you eat that way your life, like great.
Perfect.
Right? And go dabble with it for a couple weeks and be like, well, that wasn't for me.
But it doesn't make it the only way.
No, that's right. It makes it the best way in this moment for you. That's okay.
That's it, right? Like
that's enough. That's enough. We think that there's some secret squirrel idealized program. If I take this turmeric, it's not. Your body is capable of lots of different training, lots of different ways of eating, lots of different ways of being in the world. There are many ways.
The beauty of that, and it's the people. So I described this as a new concept. Is people really like the idea of magic. And one of the ways I break this down was watching Forgetting Sarah Marshall, right? And so Paul Rudd's got this great scene in the movie where Jason Segel's character walks up to him. He's on the beach. He's a surf instructor. And he's talking to him, and he's like, you got a lot of sadness in your eyes. He says that to Jason Segel. And he's like, you know what's really good for that? And he goes, what? He says, weed. Mm-hmm. And he says, do you have any? And he's like, no. And he says, well, then let's go surf. Because that's the next best thing, right? And like, I love it. It's brilliant. It's delivered well.
It's the next best thing.
And so it's easy to look at that line and that talent and be like, fucking Paul Rudd's amazing. Paul Rudd's magic. But the truth of that is, that's a location scout. That's a script writer. There's an editor. There's people that did lighting. There's wardrobe choice. There's Paul Rudd's ability to do 5 takes of them differently. There's whoever in the editing bay chose that take and lined it up and put the timing in place who did all this. It's not fucking magic that Paul Rudd has. It's 20 people who give a shit. And so quit thinking it's magic, whether that's, the reason that they can do this or they're so strong or they're so capable is, well, they must be on steroids. It ain't magic.
I hate that.
I promise you that thing that you want that's magic ain't magic.
No.
It's the only thing it helps is it allows you to do all the other really hard things more often consistently so that it creates the outcome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I like that. The internet, it's hard to see. One of my critiques of physical therapy, for example, is lack of transparency.
Right.
What does fail look like? How do you run a session? I can't tell you. We never see you actually doing physical therapy. Then there's a whole generation of people, young therapists, coaches who have been radically transparent. Aaron Horsick's a great example of being super transparent. We're transparent. Steffi's super transparent. There's 1,000 other people who are doing a great job being transparent. And what I really appreciate about the transparency of this thing is that you see that there is no magic.
There's no magic.
Versus
same with nutrition.
When you see the industrial expression, it looks so polished that people are like, they're suspicious because it looks like magic. Like, you know, you just woke up and had these abs. I'm like, did you? No, that's cute. Versus the transparency leaves breadcrumbs of process and honors the whole thing. So you can still see the movie and be like, that's awesome. But being aware actually makes it more awesome.
Right.
Right. Because it is magic. It's magic that all of those things align and you have so many things that outcomes into this thing, this moment. No athlete wins. Like Al Oder, great thrower. Yeah. Right. From the 70s. I think when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, I think I've got this right. He said, look, the problem is I can't bring all my training partners up here. Like, I'm not a Hall of Fame without them showing up in the morning and throwing and spotting me and
massage
coaching
therapist
me
and everyone.
He's like, it's really disingenuous for me to be up here alone because it's impossible for a single person to do that. And as long as we perpetuate that bullshit myth of the person alone warrior doing it, like that is a bunch of horseshit. Like the brain, coming back to this, is only a brain if it's around other brains. Brain is a social organ. It is our ability to coordinate our resources together to get shit done that makes humans rad. That's why we're able to hunt and store and tell stories and divide work. And so you're right. I think it's hard because in the moment, especially when you're getting a snapshot of it, to appreciate just all the steps. You said it best. I quoted you a lot. Step 1, have a business. Step 3, profit. Right. And you're like,
it's really easy to look at that, the opposite side or the magic side. And it's where I really run into people is if you're ever someone that says, must be nice, you believe in magic.
I think that's true.
And like, no, that ain't the fucking truth. Must be nice. Must be nice. These 8 knee surgeries must be nice. That I started writing books when no one gave a shit. Must be nice. That I spent a bunch of money traveling to film stuff with people when no one fucking cared.
Must be nice.
Must be nice. Like, oh, cool to have the YouTube thing. I have 1,400 fucking videos on my YouTube channel. It's a grind.
Must be nice.
Also, nothing. I'm
1,400.
Yeah, right.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I'm as good of an example that you can just grind. I haven't had anything blow up. There isn't one social thing that ever caught fire for me. I don't have 1 million followers. I don't have a podcast that's downloaded by 200,000 people. There's never been the giant clickbait thing that went viral. It's never happened. It's consistent work.
You know what the most successful thing we've ever done is?
Huh?
I pulled my daughter's tooth.
With the drone.
With a Millennium Falcon drone.
With a Millennium Falcon drone.
That is the most successful video we've ever made. You know, shot on an iPhone, me pulling my kid's tooth out. We just had the anniversary, but we threw it on the site.
I saw it. Yeah.
And it went on front page of Reddit. USA Today, News Now. God. We got picked up. Someone licensed it from us for 150 pounds sterling. Caroline made 1,000 pounds sterling on her. And it was in Nigerian news. It was on like Kelly and Ripa. Like it went everywhere. And I was like, what am I even doing in my life? And you know what Caroline was like? She's like, let's make another one.
I got all these teeth.
Look at all of my.
I was like, hun, you can't catch lightning in a bottle. And if you catch lightning in a bottle, enjoy it because for 1 second it'll get something to talk about.
To replicate that.
You can't, and it won't do anything for you.
Which is why I'm impressed now. Like I think at a younger age and a little bit more scarcity mindset, it would be easy to look at some like YouTube creators that do viral stuff as like, fuck man, that's a joke. Like what Juji does or what I've seen Bradley Martin do or any of these guys and be like, fuck man, it's a clown thing. Meanwhile, I don't have a bunch of brilliant viral video ideas I'm sitting on that I've chose not to film. Like there's a talent.
Yeah.
There's a skill to that too. And like how to present it and how to do it. Now it's up to that person, whether they see the traps on the way down that road and whether or not you're willing to reverse back out to go somewhere else.
Oh, that's tricky.
Because you can get owned by that life.
Can get, will get. It's dangerous.
I'm glad that that's not what I've leaned into.
Yeah. Man, it's messy and it's complicated. Our friend Tim interviewed Ken Burns.
Yeah.
And Ken Burns documentary, like the Civil War in Vietnam, if you're not a Ken Burns person. But in Ken Burns' studio, he has a sign that says it's complicated. And I feel like that's okay. It's okay that it's complicated. Just make the best decisions you have today, but take care of the basics. And the basics are sleep and walk and sunlight and sex and having fun and feeling close and being vulnerable and talking about your feelings. That's the shit. And then everything else is 100% lightning or not. And lightning sometimes strikes multiple people multiple times. You know, it's been really useful for me. And we've talked about people getting hot before, but I think we were listening to Jay-Z being interviewed by Oprah, and she says, "What's the definition of excellence?" And he said, "Performing at a high level for a long time." And that is really hard to do. And
I agree with that.
He's like, and we see people get hot in the rap industry. People have a big record, and he's like, but that's not the same thing as excellence. And so we celebrate that.
It ain't the same thing as 10 platinum albums.
We're like, get hot, enjoy that. And so when people are hot, don't throw shade at them.
No way, dude.
Celebrate it, because it's a miracle that they're hot, and really be cool. Hot. Don't be petty. See them and be like, man, it must feel great for them to be hot. I feel that's so great, because that is going to go away. And it is so hard to be competent and relevant and interesting and pertinent and developing for a decade, for 2 decades.
And
that's excellence. And really, I think that's a useful way of thinking it. If you feel like something in your life is going off, see it for what it is. It's hot, you're hot for a second.
Which is why I think it would be so complicated, right? to come out of college and get into the NFL
You're hot.
Get a big thing
You're hot.
and then realize I'll never make more money than this. That at 25,
when you retire,
this
done.
is it.
That's right.
And most of the guys that retire at 25 still have a lot of life left to figure out how to earn a living from.
Yeah, they have to.
But
they have to.
Man, that volume gets turned. It's tough to go from that to selling used cars.
Yeah, that's the game. That's the deal that you made. You know, Forrest Griffin is a friend of ours.
Yeah.
And he, the fighter, and someone asked him once, like, well, you know, what's it like to be a millionaire? And he's like, no. I'm a millionaire. I have a few millions. He's like your grandparents, like a dentist. He's like, I still work. He's like, a millionaire, they have hundreds of millions. There's a big difference. And, you know, the athletic thing, I think the way we fetishize sport and fetishize performance is very confusing. You know, I asked one of my young nephews, he's really good. Like, he's 15 or 16 now, throws the javelin like a champion. And he was like a junior Olympic superstar.
It's not a real throwing event, but it's cute.
It's cute.
They weigh it in grams.
You can wear shot put in grams.
I guess.
You wear
kilograms.
How many grams does this rock weigh? All the grams.
7.265.
The Husafeld is Husafeld 7 grams. And
awful stone.
But you know, a couple years ago or a year ago, someone asked him, like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I want to be sponsored by Nike. That was his life ambition.
Was it Forrest Griffin?
No.
Oh, okay.
My young kid,
Gotcha.
who's a thrower. And I was like, wow, that is someone who isn't unclear on how this thing is going to work.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, that's a side effect. You're checking the side effects there.
Yeah. That has nothing to do with
But that's how I've always
ambition.
thought the money side of things is like you're chasing a symptom. Like the side effect or the symptom of it is from doing the job well for a really long time.
Who was it? Some running coach, you may know, track and field, had said, you know, if you chase the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of wealth will get jealous and follow. If you chase the goddess of wealth, she'll just run away. That's
really, really good.
And that is that industrial versus auteur idea, right? If you're set out to make money, it's less likely to go. If you set out to have an incredible life, you may build, if you're lucky and persistent, a really high quality life. And I think that's all we can ask for. Really is, are you rooted in your community? Are you rooted in your neighbors? Do you know the people around you? Do you feel like you have a tribe of people that you've created, and they may not be your family because you don't live near your family anymore? So those are who thought that those would be the things I give the most shit about now, but it is the thing that is holding people back.
Now, I think there's something you and I both know, at least about each other, that I think has made such a huge difference in our careers that you and I talk about, but I don't know how to translate it to everyone very well. But you and I are connectors, and that's a thing that we do well with our space. Like we make relationships and we network, but those are such buzzwords that I feel such a negative connotation to. But building relationships, I don't feel negative about that. But that's essentially what it's something that I'm very good at, and I'm aware that I'm good at.
One of the, I think, pieces of that, or the tell of that, is stoke. So one of the things that Juliet and I point out to our kids all the time is like Juliet and I are pretty much stoked, and we surround ourselves by people who are stoked. People who are just stoked. Like we're showing up. What are we doing
People
today?
that are stoked for your success, and
Not
you're
even-
stoked for theirs.
Just how about just stoked?
Just
like,
stoked.
what are we doing today? You know? Oh, we're
Not-
training. What are we
not
making meals?
complainers.
Yeah. Well, just being stoked is an indicator, because people want to be around stoked other people. And if you can be a little bit more stoked, it's just fun. Just smile. I'm stoked. I show up and I'm stoked. You know, I'm just glad to be here.
It's that person you're around. You're like, hey man, how's it going? And they just have a bunch of shit wrong. You're like, oh, I gotta go.
Let's go ahead and be stoked. And I think the tell around those super connectors, you are definitely a super connector in a freakish way. You're one of it's like a superpower you have. People don't understand how many relationships you have and how many relationships you set up for people. Like, hey, you should meet
And I
so-and-so.
love it.
Yeah, it's so
I
fun.
love it, man.
Well, it makes you look good.
Well, sure. Don't get me wrong. It is self-fulfilling. However, I love it.
I call it great relationships by proxy.
Sure. You know, I love being able to hook up these rad people, but also I love that. I mean, how many people we know that are in powerlifting or in their thing don't have any world outside of it?
Yeah, Donnie Thompson turns his phone off.
Right.
It's interesting, the choices that people make to win or to be successful. You know, people make very deeply personal choices that are unsustainable. And if that's the thing that got you to your success, you're right to be able to have that life the way you want. Working with this young woman, Kate Courtney, under 23 world champion, World Cup. She's, again, an Olympian superstar. She's stoked. Her whole jam is just like, she is fucking fierce. But her whole thing is sparkle watts. And like, you can't outstoke her, you know? And here's a woman who, is sort of getting to be the peak of her power. She's a Red Bull athlete. She's really amazing. Follow Kate plus Fate. And you want to see what I think is one of the greatest athletes in a generation. She could be our greatest American cyclist ever. She's one of the greatest athletes I've ever worked with, because her open mindset, she's like George St. Pierre in terms of, here's what I know. I'm sure I can learn more. I'm open. Show me a better way. I'm in. I'm stoked. I love training. Training is hard. It's not very sexy, but I love it. And this is my job. And that kid, I have never met a woman or an athlete, man or woman, who has more runway ahead of them in terms of creating a stable family and figuring out a way to train and travel and figure out how to be stoked and have fun. And man, that's how you build excellence. And what we see is that people burn out because they're not stoked, or they've set themselves up where it's a short run. The candle is going to burn this hot for this long, then I'm out. And if you know that about yourself and that's the way you won and you won the game and you're done, great. But everyone who's the long game is stoked.
Dude, I think that's such a strong spot to wrap. That, like, be stoked, man. Be stoked on the people around you. And not only that, like, if the people around you aren't stoked on your success, they got to go.
I want people to know that this is how Matt and I talk to each other all the time.
All the time.
I'm sorry, everyone. Like, this is me sitting down with my best friend, and this is what we talk about. This is a continuation of what we talk about, and it's nonstop.
It's nonstop.
I mean, sometimes we eat and sometimes we have things.
Right.
But this is the kind of conversation that Matt and I have all
And this
the
is the
time.
conversations I'm having with other people
All the time.
all the time.
I have it with my wife.
Yeah.
Right. This
Same with
is-
Bonnie and I. And it's just how to build this better mindset and look at the people we're around and what can we learn from these super mutants that we're allowed to interact with.
No, man, there are super mutants, and you take inspiration, rip off. As the artist, just again, if you see something, show your connections, show your history.
Right.
Show-
don't pretend you created it
No,
from scratch.
well, actually, it's a weaker position. Yeah. If you're a coach, let everyone know what your coaching heritage is. what your coaching lineage is, right? And you can see like, oh, I was so inspired by this. Like, wait till you see the TRS sign that is like pink. It looks like dope. And I'm gonna be like, got this from Matt
There's
Vincent.
nothing that makes me happier right now than seeing other people post gyms and having different lighting and shit in it.
Nailed
Yeah,
it.
nailed it.
Here first.
Kill it.
Yeah, build your spaceship.
Hey, this is my idea.
That's right. So I mean, I just
love it, dude.
keep like take inspiration. I think that is what we're in this time right now where we have so much choice and there's so much deep niche to go down. I'm in a French techno niche right now. Like
French techno niche.
All
I
it
love
is
it. Dude, that's what he calls like the synthwave chill stuff is French techno.
That's
just
so
soft
much.
techno.
That's so much better.
French techno.
It's so much more hilarious.
I listen to so much French techno. And that's all I listen to. And I'm like just gone down this rabbit hole. I'm like, thank God there's a channel for me. And you know what? What's so fun is, of course, iTunes knows exactly what I love now.
Yeah, it's best.
And
I love the algorithm. This is great.
How do they know I like this music? Because it sounds like all the other music you listen to, jerk.
Dude, let's go get some lunch.
All right. Love you, man.